You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, it is April, and not April's Fools over here, but it's April. And the year is really, just ramping up. We're in quarter two, which is the halfway mark of this season. And what a thrilling, second half of our exciting, thrilling, and really overzealous season 6. What a season this has been. And what a shock last week. So many things. But I'm just so happy that I am free, that I'm back out in the world fully. And, there's no secrets and surprises from me as of now. It was hard sitting on that. But so much has been going on. I've been just very overjoyed by so many reactions, receptions, and all that jazz. And so, yeah, April is here. And my Easter, oh my goodness, my Easter feast that I had a cute little Easter dinner, small dinner. It was myself, Mr. Johnson, my younger brother, of course, from Temple, Jamarcus, and my homegirl Sharon. We just had a nice little cute Easter dinner, some great wine, some great talk, and we cooked a feast. We had a citrus glazed roasted chicken, whole chicken. We had salmon Wellington. We had garlic Parmesan potatoes, au gratin, roasted rainbow carrots, a massaged kale salad that Mr. Johnson saw somewhere. And it actually was very good. I was like, what is massaged kale salad? But it was really good. And we had this really incredible carrot cake. I believe that was from Ardmore that Sharon had brought. And, carrots, greens, citrus. It just feels like spring. And it feels like Easter. So it was a great feast. We had a really, really good time. And it was really fun. Also, for news, for people who have been noticing, Google Podcast is basically, I think, done. And the great news is that you can listen to Ernestly Speaking now on YouTube and YouTube Music. So I don't know if you all know this, but I don't have Apple Music or anything like that. Even though I am on Apple Podcasts and I have an Apple Podcast account. But you can actually listen to me, subscribe to my podcast on YouTube Music. So for people who are part of the Android Google family, subscribe to download the YouTube Music app, and it will connect you automatically to your Google account. You can use your Google account to basically create that. And so basically it's like a Google podcast. And so pretty much you won't be able to, I think with a subscription, you can be able to listen to music nonstop like anyone else. It's kind of like a Spotify like that in a way, but there's like a subscription. But with podcasts, I believe it's accessible. So you can definitely listen to my podcast now on YouTube Music. All of my episodes from season 1, episode 1 to now season 6, episode 13. You can listen to all episodes on there, which apparently there is over 184 episodes in some variation is officially there. So 184 total episodes. Now, to be clear, I do my episode count by how many is original that's connected to a season. So to be transparent, right, there are some episodes, there's a lot of bonus episodes I've done or special edition episodes. I don't count that in my queue. So some of y'all might be saying, when are you going to do your big old 200 episode smash? You might say, oh, you got about 16 more episodes left. Well, technically, I don't count my bonus episodes in that queue. So when I do my 200th episode celebration, it's going to be connected to the season episode count versus the special edition episodes. But nonetheless, I have put in over 180 plus episodes total. And so all of them are now available on YouTube Music. And of course, we don't do Spotify, but there's also Amazon. I'm on Amazon Music and all that. I'm on, of course, I'm on Apple. What's other big ones that people listen to? And now I'm transitioned to YouTube Music. And YouTube in general. You can also go on YouTube and listen to it as a streaming. And that's really been helping with a lot of the new downloads. Like my episode listen increase for a couple of people picked up on it. skyrocketed. Like it was always doing well, but it just went really higher off of the YouTube impressions because now it's on YouTube and stuff. It's not connected to my original YouTube channel. I have a separate, like, just general basic Ernest Owens YouTube account that just is really for like my super, super professional stuff. But my general EO Ernest Owens YouTube page where all my old Ernestly Speaking TV show episodes, all that archival stuff, that page is still around. And that really is my official YouTube channel, but I just created a separate one just for the podcast. So you can listen to all of my episodes on that particular channel if you want to subscribe. But all of it's there. I just want to give you all some good housekeeping because I know so many of you all were like, what's going on? I want to know. So for all of my YouTube people, all my Google people, Android people, Google Podcast folks that have to leave, just go over to YouTube Music. Just go over to YouTube because they're owned by Google. It's a conglomerate, baby. So in other news, you all heard that I was on TV One's For My Man. So TV One has a series called For My Man. Good news is that if you have a DVR, you can watch it on demand. You don't have to worry about catching the next episode. You can DVR it for all of those. Anybody who got cable, you can watch that full episode. I am on there. I'm on there a lot. So it's not like a little catch me if you can. I am throughout it. They used so much of my footage and I was so happy. Like all of my narration, a lot of it was used. It's a 1 hour episode. It's super dope. So for those who want to watch the episode, it is season 7, episode 12, and it's called Deadly Dealings. And it's based in Pittsburgh, actually. I thought it was a Philly story because I filmed this, like, I want to say last fall, but it's a story set in Pittsburgh about a crime, a very popular crime. And for those who don't know the For My Man series, it's basically these stories that are based around Black people, because TV One is a Black channel, Black-owned channel. And so the theme is always these stories of like Black women who were, women that were innocent, sweet, all of that, and then they turn into a life of crime based on a lover that they're with. And so when they say For My Man, these women would do anything for their man. They ride or die, not for the right reasons. But it's a crime story show. So it's kind of got that investigation discovery energy for those who was like, yo, what does this mean? It's a really good show. It's a really good episode, if I do say so myself. We rewatched it over here at my for Easter. All my my folks that came for we had a good little feast, and they came and they were just like, yo, whoa, 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 whoa. So it's so entertaining. It was so fun to watch with family and friends. And check it out if you haven't. Again, it's not the latest episode because they do an episode every Monday. So again, it is season 7, which is the current season. It's episode 12, and the episode is called Deadly Dealings. Let me know when you get a chance to watch it. And there's also another appearance by my vice president of print for PABJ, Jamira Perry. She is also in the show as well, narrating. So if you see a familiar face, yes, that is my VP on my PABJ board. So tune in. I also want to give a good birthday shout out to my good friend Chris Bartlett, who turned 58 last week. And we celebrated, we had a birthday dinner. We went to Giuseppe and Sons, because I couldn't be able to make it to his birthday celebration, but we went to Giuseppe and Sons by Scholston Collective, which they own so many incredible restaurants. They own Alpen Rose, Pearl and Mary, Double Knot, Sandpan, Graffiti Bar, Independence Beer Garden. And I'm just off the dome telling y'all this. Like, this is off the dome. Bar Leisure, which just opened not too long ago. Pernella, Via La Costa. Yeah, they got... Oh, Harp and Crown. I mean, this man owns a lot. Like, we always talk a lot about... Or at least I always talk a lot about Steven Starr. I always talk a lot about Jose Garza's, Cooking Solo, Michael Solomov and Steve Cook. But I have not talked enough about Michael Scholston. Michael Scholston is also should be in that what I would call that Mount Rushmore of Philadelphia restaurateurs. Of course, Ellen Yin too, right? But he's definitely in the Mount Rushmore. I mean, we don't talk about it, but he really does. He has had restaurants, and I'm not shading any of these other restaurants, but pound for pound, bar for bar, he has the most. Ooh. See, I don't want to get in trouble. Let me not get in trouble. But I will say that he has, in many ways, a lot of very different restaurant concepts, but all of them, a lot of them are like top tier. I'm not throwing shade at none of my restaurants because I love everybody in the business, most of them. But when I named them restaurants, I know some of y'all listening was like, whoa, 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 whoa. He got like straight bangers. Like he has bangers, like happy hour bangers, dinner bangers, date night bangers, brunch bangers. He has nonstop bangers. And the versatility of his restaurants, I mean, the range is just out of this world. So I find him to be a really interesting restaurateur in all of this. But I will say, some will say that some of these other restaurateurs are cooks or chefs. Like, Michael Solomon actually cooks. He knows how to cook. He makes restaurants. He cooks. But Steven Starr doesn't cook. Jose Garza's do. Chef Jose Garza's do. So there might be something to be said for like the chef turned restaurateur that like cooks, makes recipes, cook food and all that versus somebody who acquires. But I would say Schultz is a very stewed business person. Like he really understands the business and really understands how to, he has an eye for taste. And yeah, like it's boss levels. But we went to Giuseppe and Sons. I haven't been there like in like 5 years, y'all. Like it's been a long time since I've been there. But I must say I was wildly impressed. I mean, the food is good. It's like South Philly Italian, but there's all these other great dishes. I had a stuffed chop. It was like a loin. It was a veal chop, a stuffed veal chop with prosciutto and all the greats. We did calamari. We did the fried artichoke situation. There was some really great pasta. Ooh, their red sauce. Any red sauce pasta they had, and it was great. I didn't have a white sauce pasta. I only did red wine, but the wine selection was phenomenal. But one of the things that stood out to me the most, that I remember the most, was this dessert. They had this raspberry cheesecake. And let me tell you about this. It's not like they got a New York, cheesecake, and put some raspberries on top and then put some raspberry, jazz sauce. This was a raspberry infused cheesecake. Like the color of the cheesecake was this really nice lavender color. And they had raspberries on top, fresh raspberries on top. It was gorgeous. It was delicious. I mean, I'm still thinking about it. And they had an olive oil cake that I sent Mr. Johnson. Because Mr. Johnson, my husband loves butter cake. I don't know what his obsession is with it, but he loves butter cake. But it's hard to find a menu with butter cake. Like, it's a couple of places that do butter cake for dessert. But in lieu of butter cake, he is into olive oil cake. It kind of has the same feel. Like, let me be clear. Butter cake and olive oil, like all these cakes is based like a pound cake, but they're cooked with there's something else special about them, but they're pretty much a grandiose, fancier pound cake. But this olive oil cake they had at Giuseppe and Sons was just incredible. So I had a really great time there. Other great things that happened. Lip Brothers were back. The Lip Brothers are back. After my hiatus in Greek affairs, we're back. It was a couple of weeks. I just couldn't go anywhere. I was in the process, right? But this was incredible. We kicked off our big, huge spring awakening at the incredible Set No Libs in Northern Liberties. Now, we went to Set No Libs a while back, and many of you probably did in Northern Liberties. There's a lot of bars and restaurants down there. But there is a brand new restaurant, I believe there's a new chef. The food is very upgraded, just new stuff. The happy hour is dope. We went there on a Friday, a Good Friday, had a really good Friday. But the wings were, woo. There's so many different influences in the food too. Like there's like this Asian influence in some of the dishes, which was really good, like a Korean, wing flavor, sesame wings. I mean, it's an Asian influence in some of it, but they have the great classics. I mean, everything was good. Those char-broiled oysters, which I remember them having when I first went, they still have them and they are top tier. Everything was good there. I mean, it was a good time. The drinks are really like, they have a variety of drinks. Now, some of the standouts for me was this cucumber, I think it was like a cucumber fresher or whatever, and it was with tequila in it, and it was in a nice glass with mint. That was a standout. I really liked their sangria, which was like, it was a very boozy sangria. It was like a white sangria they had. I really liked their boozy sangria. They had various cocktails that were really, really strong, but I would tell people, oh, they had this real tall, like, margarita situation. We didn't get that because we thought it was obnoxious as shit. But, like, basically, it was this tall, like, and you've probably seen them at some of these, like, resorts, but it was like this tall, like, multi-liter prong margarita thing. My whole thing with it was it had ice in it, so you have to drink it fast. And if you don't, it starts to get watery. I didn't have it there, but I just wasn't going to risk it. But we just had a great time. It was me, Josh of Josh East Philly, of course, Dr. Gio of Gio's Table, and of course my bestie Jamarcus. The four of us was back with our lovely Lit Brother bracelets that was made from our good friend Laura. But no, I'm back on the scene. I'm slowly coming back. I'm trying to trust restaurants again after my previous situation. I'm back to trying to love restaurants. I'm, pacing myself. But it seems like, spring is here. We're in the groove. So I'm looking forward to going out to some things. Definitely going to be making some more appearances in the next couple of weeks. A couple of really great brunch spots are on the horizon. Some new restaurants, some new situations. So there's going to be more to come. So I'm looking forward to it. But I am back. And then before we get into hot topics, last week, okay, look, the streets are talking. Before I get into the streets of talking, sidebar. Y'all went crazy and went up for my denim wear denim outfit. Let me tell y'all something. I love my denim wear denim outfit. Y'all shout to, my boy Telfar, okay? That denim blue. I told y'all I had got the black one and the blue one. I got it sent to me back in like December. It was like a little Christmas present. And I kept telling y'all I was not going to pull it out into the summer. But, we're going to talk about Cowboy Carter. I had to pull out the blue denim for my girl because listen, all of my best friends, my close best friends that knew me since my college years and stuff, and even high school, know that I am a denim on denim John. Like I will wear a denim jacket, a denim bag, a denim jeans. I love me some denim. I had my black boots on. I had to pull out. I wasn't gonna do the cowboy hat. It was too much, but I was denim down, baby. The denim Dawn was on it. Okay, the denim John was on it. So I love me some good old denim. And so my denim Telfar bag was a hit. Some people who was sleeping on it that didn't get it or didn't think they should get it, they was having second guesses. Sometimes you just got to wear the product for people and really model it and rock it. And that's the one thing they like about when I wear their products and their stuff is that I really know how to put the fit together. Because sometimes I see people with Telfar bags and I'm like, that's not the right look. Like there's a look to go with it. You got to wear it a certain way. And look, the way I rocked it, because even Philly folks love them some denim. Like, y'all love a denim cap. Oh my God, that is a Philly thing. The denim baseball caps with the studs, oh my God. Like, Philly women love those. I don't see them as much, but Philly women love a denim cap, baseball cap, that they don't even wear backwards. They wear it forward, and they put the little stuff on it on a bad hair day. They love them. So I know some of them was looking, they even have the denim caps, baseball caps for Telfar. They have denim ones actually, and the belts too. But I wasn't doing all that. Yeah, I keep it. Listen, I don't do too much. I keep it cute. I had the medium bag, and I had the denim jackets, and I kept it cute. So yes, that is what it looks like. And it was in this weekend is Cowboy Carter weekend. We're gonna talk about that album. I have so much to say. This is gonna be this is going to be a very meaty episode. All of my episodes, I feel like are meaty and juicy, if I do say so myself. But this was a little extra saucy, with the, we ain't spaghetti. We ain't dry. This is all the ragu, baby. All the sauce. Shout out to people that know that reference. But anywho. So yeah, let me get into the tea. So now that I'm officially in alpha, it's been so much. So let me start off with this. It has been overwhelming amount of love. Like, I just want to say that to everybody. Thank you all so much. Everybody who just show so much love and just so much enthusiasm. I mean, so many of you are. I had people from across the country that just told me stories about just the fact that they were just so happy that, I crossed and that, I had this moment and that, what it's going to mean for so many people because, there's always been a history and a conversation about, fraternities in general, not even just Black Greek letter organizations, but just fraternities in general. And like the history around either racism or homophobia or all of those things. And so for people to see me do this was a big damn deal. And a lot of people was excited. I mean, it broke the internet. I mean, people are still in awe. I had people from college I hadn't talked to in how many years, but they were like, "You're an alpha?" I was like, so, I done did Forbes 30 under 30. I had got a 6-figure book deal. I done had a big book and had a national tour. I done got married. I done did all these things. But this is the thing that made you want to pick up the phone and hit me up in like how many years, right? it has been a very interesting reaction in that regard too. Like there's all of the reactions, right? So there's been a lot of just overwhelming love. I mean, I've gotten so many gifts from so many people from the Divine Nine. People done sent me ties and shirts and stuff. I love it because one thing I heard about when you cross any Divine Nine organization, um, you get so many gifts. Like people want to send you stuff and shirts and books and I've gotten so much stuff. So I was like, wow, I don't even need to buy anything. Like I'm not even buying anything until I get all of the gifts because I was like, I was gonna buy a tie. I was gonna go online and get some, and then next thing I know, I had the thing I wanted in the mail. So it's been overwhelming with so many love, so much gifts, so many nice people, so much. It's just been overwhelmingly positive, right? And then you get the weird reactions, right? Which I knew was coming because of course, right? Of course. I mean, it's what happens when you're that dude. But you get the haters. You get people that's like, oh, I don't understand. He was always negative and always trashing Divine Nine. Now he want to be it. Da da da. Let me just say all this to these people. I'm going to make it really cute and very simple. Several things. One is I don't owe you explanation because I don't, right? Two, I'm here and that's it, right? Like it is what it is. I don't know what to tell you, but it is what it is. I've done my work, I've done my process, I have my membership card. I'm an alpha baby, deal with it, okay? But then the third thing, because the Libra in me just can't help but to say the things. Just like people, institutions evolve. Things change. And we all have the right to evolve, but also institutions and the people in institutions can also evolve and change as well. Let me just say that. There's enough documentation to validate my claims. I'm not going to go all into the tea, but a lot of institutional changes have happened within the Divine Nine in Greek life since, 2012, 2013. And if people actually did their research and read, a lot of things have changed to make these institutions more inclusive, more safe, more accountable, a lot of things, right? That's just the nature. And so the environment and the culture to which I was speaking about 10 to 12 years ago is not necessarily the same. Now, there are still, every institution, every place has its own wrinkles. Hell, this US government do. But there is a lot of different progressive changes, and that has definitely shaped my thoughts and my involvement. Because if you think that I would have been still involved in the same place or the same space that I was 11 years ago or 12 years ago, yeah, that probably would have not happened. So the question isn't so much of, oh, Ernest changed. Maybe you should ask the question, what changed? Because I didn't change. I have the same values. I don't support homophobia. I don't support homophobia in fraternities. I don't support homophobia in church. I don't support homophobia in journalism. I don't support homophobia anywhere. Let's be clear. And if I see it, I'm going to say something. I'm going to confront it, right? I don't support hazing, right? I don't support people being hit on or touched or anything like that. I didn't support it in where I was at, and I don't support anywhere else. I don't support sexual assault and rape, whether it's being done in a fraternity, a sorority, a church. If I see it and know about it, I'm going to speak out. So there's no compromising over here. And so for the people that was like, oh, you were so critical about Divine Nine. No, baby, I was more critical about sexual assault, elitism, homophobia. And I kept that same energy in every institution, including institutions like Black Greek letter organizations. So if you're mad that I was criticizing homophobia in Black fraternities and sororities, then what are you defending? Are you mad or should be happy? Should this not be a moment to say, wow, this institution has evolved to the point where people like Ernest can now join? Because clearly things have to evolve in order for things to happen. Because it wasn't like somebody conformed. Because if you thought I was conforming, let's be clear. Everybody knows that that's not who I am and that's not what I stand for. So no, it's just things can evolve, things can change, conversations can be had. And at the end of the day, the identity of these organizations is rooted in service. It's rooted in leadership. It's rooted in uplifting community. And those are the things that I stand for. Too many people think it's about strolling and stepping and wearing the cool merch and flashing their signs and all of their symbols. But that's not what it's about.
Some people want to be just in stuff just to be a part of what they think is a cult. And other people want to be a part of an organization that is rooted in uplifting our community and really providing service. So when you look at the mission statement of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, right? We're about academic excellence. We're about promoting brotherhood. We're about being the leaders and supporting service in our communities. That's what we're about. That's the work that we do. All this other stuff, that's what it's gonna be, right? But that's why I'm here. And that's why so many other Black men and supporters are a part of these organizations. Every group is going to have their rotten apples. Every group is going to have people that's going to, be whatever. But I think there's a larger purpose, and I'm a part of that larger purpose. And the people that I've connected with, the brothers I've connected with, and other people, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the work. Some people here might be here for the twerk, but I'm here for the work. And so just want to put that disclaimer, because now I can, everybody want to have their little thoughts and their little opinions. I mean, there was somebody that shared an article I wrote for Huffington Post back in 2013. And they were like, oh, well, you remember when you said this? I said, yeah, baby, that was like 11 years ago. And I read the article and I said, well, yeah, I was talking about, Black organizations need to be more relevant. And I said that in 2013. And I was talking about the history of homophobia and how they need to get with the times. And it looks like some of them have begun to get with the times. I mean, it is what it is. Clearly, there was an era where a person like me couldn't be a part of it, and it was said out loud. Like, no faggot literally is not going to be on my line, is what one man said. And the irony of that, because, let me be quiet. I ain't going to spill that tea, but people remember that. But all I want to say is the irony of the source, the person that said that, ironically said that. But maybe, anyway, and he said he was alpha. And the crazy part is that I can see him at the 10-year reunion and go, hey, brother. It's just funny. The irony. But that's the stuff, right? Those are the things. But there was a time where there were gatekeepers and people that told me no. Told people like me no. And let's be clear, it wasn't just alphas, right? Kappas did something to a young man in Morgan State University, and he actually, I believe, threatened to sue them. And he's actually pretty known on social media now. He's pretty much done well for himself. But there was a history, and there has been a history. And if we ignore our history, we can't fix the future or improve the future. So I'm all about that. And for people who want to sit up and clinger to the past, well, baby, you can stay there, but baby, I'm the future. I'm with it. I'm the present too. So I do get a kick out of folks that are still bitter, still want to reside in what they reside in. I knew that was going to be the case with some people, but I never gave a damn, to be honest, because there's more important work to do. I mean, we got an election coming up. We got to get this voter registration together. There's going to be a lot of service work that, of course, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and, of course, the Mighty Road chapter is going to be doing. And that's the work that I care about. Okay, I want to make sure that everybody is aware about their voter rights. We're going to be doing drives. We're going to be doing all types of stuff between now and November. That's the work, okay? This is a part of a larger plan, right? We got to mobilize these brothers. We got to get people out here to the polls, and that is the work. And best believe that before I had Greek letters, right, I was still doing that work. I just want to be in a space where I can amplify and improve the work that's being done on a larger scale. It's better to work with people. It's better to work with a group rather than always do things solo. Now, I'm sorry, my podcast, baby, I'm going to be the only one on this podcast. Not too many features, okay? I'm like J. Cole, but better. But yeah, that's what it's about. So that's all. Now, moving to the big topics. Trump got a major rebuke from a federal judge. This Stormy Daniels trial is taking off, and he is getting a major rebuke. People are ready to now, the judges are not playing with him. All these delays, all this stuff, baby, they're tired. They're sick and tired of him and his antics, and it's about damn time.
So the judge is going to basically give him a gag order, which is pretty much he's not allowed to say any defamatory things about his fellow attorneys, the witness at hand, or the plaintiff, which would be Stormy Daniels and company. He cannot berate anything publicly on his social media accounts. And he's already kind of had some hiccups there because he tried to accuse that the judge's daughter was biased. I mean, the judge was biased because apparently his daughter was an anti-Trumper, and he tried to cite to some social media account, which was found to be a fake. But he's basically they're really clamping down on his antics, and he's in court. He's in court, and there is a gag order in place. So we're going to see what's happening there. But in other news, he's also selling $60 Bibles, apparently. So Trump recently launched that he was selling these Bibles. I mean, timeliness, right? Because of all the, it's Easter, all the Easter season stuff. But now he's selling Bibles. And I'm just sitting here like, what is, evangelical Christians that support Trump, I don't even understand. Like, at this point, it's not about God. It's not about their faith. It's really about white supremacy. He already sold $399 sneakers, and now he's selling $60 Bibles or $59.99 Bibles while he's trying to run to the White House. So this man is trying to hustle his way through. God Bless the USA is the name of the Bible, and it's inspired by the Lee Greenwood anthem. And he's got some copy. Apparently the Bible comes with copies of the nation's founding documents, all those things. And it's a hot mess. I mean, he's been getting dragged, but really this is a grift because he's trying to get funds for his campaign and legal bills. I mean, everything he's selling as merch is an attempt to try to basically help pay off his legal fees and get money for his campaign. And, like I've been telling you all, everybody wants to act like, oh, Trump is going to win and get all gloomy and doomy. But I keep telling y'all, there are these weird things happening that's telling me, yo, this is not as easy for Trump. I don't think it is as close for Trump, this race. I really think there's a lot of added suspense to build the momentum. But this is not 2020. This is not 2016. This man is really weak right now. He's very vulnerable, and he knows it. And everybody else is so fear-mongering and pandering and panicking. But this is just the mass hysteria to drive up this competitive race. Like, everybody wants a horse race. As much as Biden has his moments and things, y'all, I just don't see it. I don't see Trump winning. I don't see him winning again. I think that there's been too much damage, right? I think in 2016, the justification of Trump then was, oh, he's saying all this, but is he really going to do it? Like, everybody was just kind of, some people were like, I don't know, right? But now he's been in office, and he really did not deliver in the way that I think folks thought. Now, he did some very harmful things, but all those promises he made, he didn't really deliver on them. I mean, the border thing, he had more problems at the border than Obama did. And that still is the thing that they don't want to address. But he talked all about bans on Muslims and all this, but the immigration issue took off more under his presidency than Obama, which has, that says a lot anyway. But that's just a thing. Like, this man has said a lot of stuff, and it's not sticking. And now it just looks like a grift, and it's very much so embarrassing. And the only people that are voting for him is like the extreme stan culture of his cult group. Like, they really are the only ones standing for him at this point. And I'm just following it. Man. I have so many thoughts. I feel like Beyonce a little bit, like how, Beyonce be hinting at an album and a different thing, and it's speaking to something else, but like people go back and listen and go, oh, wow, this whole time, these little hints. Anyway, I digress. Pay attention. But yeah, I think that there's something to be said for this. Meanwhile, with Biden is getting a lot of major momentum. He had this major fundraiser in, New York City. He brought out the big dogs. He brought out Bill Clinton and Obama, former President Obama, and I guess you could say former President Clinton. They had this big fundraiser, raised over, I believe, over $125 million. I mean, it's crazy. The money is crazy. But even in other news, I actually connected to this. I went to the Biden Pennsylvania headquarters office, headquarters. They had their big headquarters, which was over the Easter weekend, which was just
look, I don't run people's campaigns, but I was like, why would you do the grand opening over this weekend? Like, there were some elected officials that came out, including Congressman Dwight Evans and Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon. There was also city council members, Isaiah Thomas, who actually spoke, city councilman at large, Isaiah Thomas. And then there was also Jay Young, who's in the 5th district. And there was also Nina Ahmad, who's also at large. There were AG candidate, Attorney General candidate Keir Bradford Gray also showed up. There was, Kendra Brooks came, Working Families Party. She showed up. She didn't speak, but she showed up. But close sources said that she showed up, not necessarily for the Democratic Party, which is whatever, but more so to support her friend, Salima Pace, who was working on the Biden campaign. So that's why she said she showed up. But it didn't hurt, right? So the good news about that was I got to meet, I had the pleasure of meeting Julie Chavez Rodriguez, who is related to Jose Chavez, who is the iconic, Cesar Chavez, who's iconic union labor guy, right? The grapes, California, all of that. That's him. I wrote about him in my book, The Case for Council Culture, about the big old strike over there for grape farmers and especially Latino, workers and people out there and the labor rights and everything. And it happened over there. Well, she's a member. She's a descendant of the family. And so Julie Chavez Rodriguez is the campaign manager for President Biden and VP Kamala Harris's 2024 campaign. She is the campaign manager, the national campaign manager. She came on Saturday to the headquarters, which is in Center City. The Pennsylvania headquarters office is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in Center City. And that was also my husband told me this because he worked on the 2016 Hillary Clinton campaign. That is the same office, for those who are politicos, the same office downtown that was for Hillary's national campaign. For her Pennsylvania campaign office. That same office is where Hillary Clinton had her campaign office. So they just basically shared space. So it's exciting. It's interesting to see how they're going to pull it off. But what was brought up during the speech, which was a big deal to me, is the big speech was that apparently Trump has not, the RNC has not really had any major offices for Trump across the country. Like they have not established official national headquarters office or anything, any statewide offices or anything like that. Like they're struggling over there. Like I'm telling you all, yes, campaigns is about issues. Campaigns is about personalities, but campaigns are also about money. And it's going to cost a lot of money, y'all. Like Trump hasn't ran any ads. Biden's already running ads on national outlets and TV. Like I've seen Biden ads. Biden's running hella ads. Biden is, he's doing it. Like, and as much as people want to critique, I'm just saying this is an opportunity to be a little optimistic, people, because a lot of people want to be all Debbie Downers and shit. But I'm just telling y'all, the money isn't there. I have not seen the money. The big, rich Republican conservative people that was donating to Nikki Haley has not crossed over, right? The Koch brothers, that gave money to Nikki, they're not giving money to Trump. Like no one's pouring money into Trump in the same way. All those big billionaires and all these people that he used to brag about, we're just not seeing the money. So, that's not to say that Biden should skate, but it's just important to pay attention to all aspects of the campaign because we can get so caught up in seeing a couple of idiots get on TV and say some stuff or some really skewed news report that will show a couple of black men acting like they don't like Biden or whatever, right? And then we'll think, I don't know, I'm scared. They always do this shit, y'all. Pay attention. They do this every fucking time. Do y'all remember in 2020? Maybe y'all don't, because sudden amnesia is a motherfucker. Do y'all remember in 2020 when there was all these conversations? I remember it, where they were like, oh, the Democratic Party's divided. People really wanted Sanders. Biden isn't getting no momentum. Nobody's excited about Biden's race. There was no enthusiasm because really people wanted, other candidates. People really wanted Kamala. People really wanted, Cory Booker, I guess. People wanted, I remember people was all hype about Julian Castro, who I liked, right? But he dropped out, pretty early. People were talking about, Sanders, right? And it just was like, Biden is just so boring. And it's people going to be motivated to go to the polls. And then what did Biden do, y'all? What did Biden do? Biden, in a pandemic where write-in votes were involving, right? Mail-in votes, all these different ways to vote. Biden is literally the most popular U.S. president in American history. What I mean by that is not the polls, baby. I'm talking the actual numbers. He got more people to vote for him than any other U.S. president in American history. These are the facts, okay? And mind you, his poll numbers at the time, as far as enthusiasm, were not that high, okay? Obama had higher enthusiasm numbers than him, but Biden got more votes for president than Obama did, even when Obama was at his prime. And it should also be noted that Trump did better in 2020 than he did in 2016. Because you got to remember, Hillary had the popular vote, but she didn't have the delegate votes. I'm talking the popular vote. Biden has had a better popular vote get than any other president in U.S. history. So we're not voting at this point, y'all, for enthusiasm. I do a lot of things as an American that does not make me enthusiastic, but I do it anyway. I pay my taxes. Okay. I haven't gone to jury duty because I'm a journalist, but if I had to, I would, right? I get my vaccinations, right? I don't like getting shots. Not that I have an issue with getting healthy, but the mere thing of people poking needles in me is very, it's not a thing, but I have to do what I got to do, right? If I want to be a teacher, I got to get my immunizations, right? This is the shit you just got to do. I don't like taking the trash out. I'm not enthusiastic about doing that, but hell, I don't want my house to smell. Some stuff you got to do, okay? You just got to do it. And so at the end of the day, am I enthusiastic about Biden? I mean, I would rather prefer other options, right? I would have preferred Gavin Newsom. I would have preferred a guy like that over in California. But at the end of the day, that's not the option. So I got to do what I got to do. And I think Black voters get that because we're the highest voters for Democrats. Black people get that. We have lived in a world where we did not always get the flashiest options, and I wish we did. But you know what? Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And it's not always the best answer. It's not always the most fanciest answer, and you wish people do better. But if we're not doing a second term of Trump. We're just not going to do it. And listen, for people that want to say all this about Biden, that's all cute and cool. But some of y'all real rap, I wish you would have said it all 4 years. I wish you would have led a movement to really try to build the momentum to get an alternative. But you didn't do it. Okay? Coming in 2024 talking that shit, I don't want to hear it. Okay? I just don't, right? Because once Biden got elected, we wasn't trying to talk about another option, right? But here's the thing. When Biden gets reelected, because we're going to speak on that, knocking on this wooden table. When Biden gets reelected, I do want to see y'all start to begin to have those conversations about what's next. Do y'all want Kamala to be next? I don't know, right? Do y'all want VP Kamala Harris to be next? No, it's a choice. It's a question. I don't know, right? Do y'all want some other options, right? It's time to look at the other options when we get to January of 2025. Y'all got to start that now. Otherwise, we're going to be having that whole we're going to be the year before, it's going to be 2027, and then y'all going to start talking. No, the conversation needs to happen immediately in 2025. Okay? Okay. So, moving along, there is a return of a most annoying politician in Philadelphia as of right now. The return of former city council woman at large and now, I could say, failed mayoral candidate who came in third place, Helen Gim. Helen Gim has come back. And there's been mixed reactions of her return. Her return has been met with people saying yay and people saying nay.
So I'm kind of with the nays, as y'all can guess. So for background, she came out for state representative candidate Cass Green. Now, there's a competitive race in West Philly. As you all know, I live in West Philly, and it's near my district. This is District 10. Incumbent Amin Brown, who ran for mayor as well. But he's been a long time. Not a long time. He's been a 2-term so far state rep, but he's running for his 3rd term. Amin Brown is going against, it's a rematch all over again. He's going against Cass Green, who is being supported by the Working Families Party, even though she's running as a Democrat. And he's also running against a woman named Saj Purple Blackwell, who comes from the Blackwell dynasty, the family who, remember Blackwell lost a couple years ago to Jamie Gautier for city council. And also the Blackwells have had a long 50-year dynasty of power. I mean, we're talking Lucian Blackwell, Lucian the Solution, who had the seat before Blackwell did like 30 something years ago. They've been in power. They were in power for nearly 50 years until Gautier lost. Until Jamie Blackwell lost to Jamie Gautier, and that changed everything. So now the Blackwell family and its extensions are trying to take back some West Philadelphia power because they had another family member who was a state senator. There's a lot of deep Blackwell reign. So she's, I guess, a part of that's trying to run because she is the wife of Tommy Blackwell, who is the grandson of Janie Blackwell, or arguably Lucian Blackwell, because it's interesting because he's more of Lucian Blackwell. He's more of the grandson of Lucian because Janie Blackwell and Lucian Blackwell did not have any children. So it's always been interesting when people have claimed her in that way. But I mean, there's a family tie there, respectfully. But it's always been, sometimes as a journalist, trying to keep up with whose kids are whose, it does get a little confusing. But nonetheless, she's also run for re-election. There was a face-off between the colors. We call them the color group because you had Amin Brown, Saj Purple Blackwell, even though her last name is Blackwell, you can say black is in the color, but she uses purple a lot. And then you have Cass Green. All three of them ran last cycle. It was Amin Brown as number 1, Cass Green number 2, and Saj Purple Blackwell number 3. Cass has been known to be with the progressive space. She's aligning herself with Larry Krasner. She's aligning herself with Jamie Gautier, who has a real huge personal beef with Amin Brown. She's always supported his adversary. She's never really supported him. But nonetheless, he still wins. And then there's also the other ordeal with, Helen Gim, too. So the reason why this is a big deal is because Helen Gim has literally been in hiding. She hasn't really shown up anywhere. The last time I saw Helen Gim was the farewell day of Daryl Clark, but she was very to herself, very quiet. She kind of sat down. She didn't say nothing, and she disappeared. But she hasn't really made any public appearances. So when she made this big public appearance out for Cass Green, that sparked some buzz in the press. But to be honest, I don't think it's going to have an effect. I think, losers endorsing other losers or potential two-time losers is not really going to make a big difference. I don't think Cass Green is going to win. I think the issue is that Cass Green, I think as a person, is a nice person. I haven't heard anything bad about her as a person. But as a candidate, she's just not good. The problem here is that when you have a 3-off race, there's only 3,000 votes to really get, and you have an incumbent that continues to be very front-facing, very ambitious. He's a young black man. He's in his mid-30s. He's a good-looking guy. I mean, he has all the things working for him, right? In our communities, people want to support young black men. And in a time where there's so many negative narratives about young black men in Philadelphia, Amin Brown represents the son, the grandson, the dude on the block, people that want, they see when I talk to voters, okay, because I'm out here too, talking to voters across Philadelphia, there's a lot of older women and older black women who look at him as like their nephew, their son, their grandson. And there's something about that. Like when we look at local races, hyper local races, there's just things like that, sentimental things that do drive voters. And you could call them low education, information voters all you want, but at the end of the day, that's not true. And it's quite frankly racist. But the truth of the matter is there are certain elements that shape the way people vote. And I think that people have misread election trends because we were like, oh, well, we want black women. But you have to look at the reality. People are voting for black women in races where they have not been present. In my district, there's actually been, I want to say, over a decade or more of black women running this district. And to be quite frank, 2 of those black women were taken out of the office in handcuffs. They've been indicted, or they've been indicted. Some of them were convicted. Some of them took pleas. But there's been a lot of political disgrace in this particular area when it came to black women in those seats. So you don't really get to use that argument in this particular district and race because that history has already been there. Now, look at Sherelle Parker. Sherelle Parker, yes, she's a black woman that's trying to be, she's a trailblazer. We never seen a woman be mayor. That argument worked.
Kamala Harris run for VP. We've never seen a woman be VP. And if the Democratic Party did something right, they got a black woman in the seat. That's when those conversations matter. Stacey Abrams, we never seen a black woman be, in a governor role, right? That's why there was an interest in getting her. She didn't win, but there was an interest there. So we want trailblazers. We're going there. There's nothing trailblazing and for a black woman to win in this particular district. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a black woman. Of course, I'm all for it. But in comparison, Amin Brown, at his young age, he's one of the youngest state reps right now in Harrisburg. There's a different type of conversation and perspective that is being ignored here. This guy is a community college dropout. He does not have that formal education. He just represents a different identity that does not oftentimes get in elected office, for better or for worse. And I think that type of it factor for him is why we are seeing him continue to succeed. He's also a man that has talked to various communities. He is an ally for the LGBTQ community, arguably. He has made visits in ways that progressives do not, right? There are many people in various communities that told me that he is a true advocate. He shows up. He really sits down and have talks and meetings. And I just feel like with Cass Green specifically, with all due respect, as a candidate, you lost 2 years ago and you kind of disappeared in the district. You went and worked for Krasner. Our district is not crazy for Krasner. They don't really care. Like District 10 does not really care about Larry Krasner. A lot of people in this area are not crazy about him. I don't think even Helen Gim, right? I don't think those are the people that's going to get voters to help unseat what has been a 2-term incumbent. So I just don't see it in the cards. I don't see it in the cards for her. I don't see it in the cards because also I think her and Sage Purple Blackwell are going to cancel each other out. See, Purple being in a race, right, is going to eat up whatever votes Cass will get. Cass might do good, but I think, Saj is a strong candidate, not strong enough to win, but strong enough to help the incumbent succeed. So again, I don't see it. That's just my thoughts. So, moving along, there has been a lot. Yes. Yeah, moving along. There's been a lot of talk about Senator John Fetterman. 3 of his comms directors, his comms team has all moved on to new jobs. Some of them are going to work. Joe Cavella, who I've known, is moving on to work for the Chicago mayor, the new Black Chicago mayor, who's very progressive. His name is Brandon. And he is... moving over there to him. Brandon Johnson is the new mayor of Chicago, who unseated, his predecessor, who was very interesting. Lori Lightfoot. He was able to basically beat Lori Lightfoot for this seat, and it was quite the talk of the town. That Lori Lightfoot lost. But we're not surprised that she lost. I mean, it's been very interesting to see how this play out. But Fetterman has lost his entire comms team. They've all moved on. Everybody wants to act like there's no bad blood. Everyone wants to act like everything is okay. But I know personally that it seems like his recent very pro-moderate stances has created an environment to which he has struggled, I believe, to a certain extent. So I do think that there is something to be said for the Fetterman changes in staff. Everybody acts like it's all good, but I think Joe Cavello had made a shady remark actually by saying that he's happy that he's finally going to a true progressive, referring to Brandon Johnson. I was like, ouch. Because we remember Fetterman came in very hard and very progressive, and then things kind of changed a little bit. I think a little bit with the Hamas-Israel war, he's come out really pro-Israel, and he's really taken some strong stances on that, and that's really upset the progressive base. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be on this comms team moving forward. One of his people are now working at the Working Families Party, and we know how progressive they are, for better or for worse. But someone else moved on and went to, where did they go? Somebody left and they went to, they went for Bob Casey, who quite frankly is very moderate. So listen, Fetterman's team is having a complete facelift. There's going to be some massive changes. And it's just interesting to see the shape of politics. I mean, people are talking about, even Mayor Sherelle Parker's transitions and things. We're going to talk more about her budget Coming up in later weeks, there is a budget proposal. I told you all was very, it was very, her dress was very enthusiastic. One of the best budget addresses I've ever heard in my years covering local politics. But I am going to be very observant about how some of this stuff is going to play out, because I've been hearing some whispers, but I'm going to wait until we get into the nitty gritty of this upcoming budget. All I know is that she's proposing no new taxes. So whatever she is going to do with her budget, I'm hearing that there's going to be no new taxes on the table. So we'll see. But, all in days, locals politics, I would say.
Another weird, interesting news. The Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed on March 26th. And this is the tragedy of it all, right? This important bridge of Baltimore that really, spanned three nearest northeast approach spans of the Francis Scott Key Bridge and the Papasco River between Hawkins Point and Dundalk, Maryland, collapsed. And this happened after a container ship Dolly had struck one of its piers. And this has been a devastating moment for Maryland and for Baltimore. If you all know, the governor of Maryland is Wes Moore, who's also an alpha. And then also the mayor of Baltimore is Brandon Scott. These are two Black men who are pretty much at the center of this attention. And during one of the press conferences that Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott had to give about this very tragic moment, there was this weird racism that took place. There was someone on social media who began to reference him as a DEI, like a DEI mayor, which made no sense because for those who know, Baltimore is one of the blackest cities in America. There's no diversity, equity, inclusion there. It's just a Black city. And so it's just really weird how they use the DEI term. But you know how Black people are. Like anytime we are served lemons, we're going to make lemonade. And interesting enough, people on social media, including myself, began to use the DEI term in lieu of. So we knew that the person who used it was not trying to say literally DEI mayor, but they were trying to either refer to him as Black or as something else. And so we began to recognize that anytime, there were specific words or terms used, largely in reference to Black people, it was often used as a substitute to signify a Black person. And we saw this with a lot of white racists, a lot of conservatives. We saw it with the term woke, where every time there was an issue pertaining to Black people, they'll say woke, but they're really trying to identify Black people. Or when they would say CRT, critical race theory, it was always used out of the incorrect order. So anytime they'll say, we don't have time to discuss these CRT issues, basically it was another way of referring to Black issues. So in this situation, Black Twitter, which is still aware, still alive, still around, right, used this term to replace in lieu of Black, the N-word, other things in popular culture. So I decided to take full advantage of it because I am Black, I am a DEI, and joined in. And so when you saw this caption for this week's episode, you saw I'm gonna be a DI for life. A lot of people understand what replaced the DEI in that song, sung by a Baltimore legend named Cisco. I thought it was only appropriate to reference a line from a Baltimore icon like Cisco. And also, if people know the song, the feature, it makes sense. What did Cisco say? Because he didn't say I'm going to be a DI for life. He said something else. So I just thought it was like the perfect reference. But, what happened in Baltimore is very tragic. There appears to be no timeline for recovery of bodies currently right now because cleanup is starting to begin. We all know that Pete Buttigieg, who is, the United States Secretary for Transportation, Infrastructure, all that, he's saying there's going to be more federal funding to really help the Baltimore Bridge collapse. And there's also going to be a lot of other resources. But infrastructure is a big thing. That's been an issue, not just here in Baltimore, but across the country. Like, we're starting to see roads and issues. I mean, look, we saw what happened with, I-76 in Philadelphia.
There's just been this huge conversation around roads and streets, potholes, and this is why you got to elect leaders that actually give a damn about these things. President Biden has really been big on these conversations around infrastructure, and it seems like this is time to repair America in more ways than one. But yeah, it's people have been asking me on social media, yes, white people specifically, and some older folks that are not really hip to this stuff. What's all this DEI? Why are people saying DEI and things? What does this mean? That's what it means, just in case people didn't know. So there. Moving along, there seems to be still some MSNBC drama. So last episode, I was talking a lot about what was going on with the RNC, the former RNC chair, Ronna McDaniel, who had a lot of buzz around this whole situation, with her going to be an NBC News correspondent around politics and other issues. There was a lot of buzz around that. And, I wanted people I was frustrated because I felt like even though there was clarity that she wasn't going to be a part of MSNBC, so it appeared, right? There still seemed to be concerns about NBC News and other things. Well, that's not happening, okay? Early this past week, they cut the cord. NBC News severed ties. She's not going to be a political correspondent. The deal has failed. That's because of public pressure, right? That's because of council culture, respectfully. That's because of all of the correspondents and others that's a part of the NBC, News, MSNBC family, all of them, and the public at large who was in disgust about it. But there seems to be other news speculation claiming, there might be other people who was a part of that decision that might be potentially not having their job anymore. Other people that appeared to act as though they had nothing to do with it, but might. So one speculation is that people are saying MSNBC President Rashida Jones, apparently, who's a black woman, appeared to seem to be someone who's really allegedly interested in pushing it. There's been so many weird behind the scenes politics that seem as though there were people who were really interested in potentially getting the ratings up, getting some attention to the station, and did not really consider the nuances. Even though there's a lot of argument about there was supposed to be this diversity of thought, that MSNBC was trying to shake the table, as you will, around not appearing to be, the liberal channel, given that Fox News is tanking. There has been a conversation, ever since, Fox News is no longer the king, right? Ever since Tucker Carlson got cut and Bill O'Reilly's no longer there, there's been a lot of shakeup at Fox News, and they're no longer the big cable news political juggernaut. MSNBC, CNN have seen a boost, respectfully, in those changes. However, there is an interest to get more competitive. And I think MSNBC has been having, I believe, the advantage over CNN in this. But they want to keep the ante going. And I think there's a sense of them that really want to annihilate any of their competitors. And I think there was interest to try to bring some Republican energy in there to really win over some of those leftover people who are not interested in Fox News, but still have conservative leanings. And so I see the strategy, but I also think they ignored the fact that they have a loyal base that wasn't going to be okay with this. And so here we are. So media has been really acting interesting, which brings me to another portion of media that's been acting interesting in different ways. You all want to know about my estranged cousin, Candace Owens, allegedly. Candace Owens, as you all know, got let go from the Daily Wire, which is this extreme conservative site. I mean, the Daily Wire definitely has written about me. I stay in the blogs for better, for worse. And the Daily Wire, which is one of the rising leaders of that is Ben Shapiro, who is this very conservative white guy. And he is younger, but he's always been known for a lot of far right opinions. So allegedly, the reason why Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro, but really the Daily Wire, severed ties is because Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens have been clashing heads in recent weeks, and it led to her departure, her abrupt departure. What's interesting about her situation is that apparently, you know, as much as she would argue about being against DEI and all of these things, she was really the token, Black young woman voice on the Daily Wire. Her show, all of her platforms, a lot of her stuff was connecting a big deal with them. And recently, she appeared to allegedly be showing this sign of, being pretty much aligning herself with anti-Semitic voices, her relationship with Kanye West, her, entertaining alleged anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. All of this made Ben Shapiro, who is Jewish, offended, even though she was playing into some of the conservative far-right extremism of what people will consider neo-Nazis and people of that nature. And so while Candace Owens was pushing that button and entertaining some of that, of course, when I always say this, and listen, my book, The Case for Cancel Culture, really got into some of the nuances and hypocrisy and the double standards around how people choose to cancel. So while it was okay for Candace Owens to make, these very anti-Black remarks about the Black community and say all these problematic things about, undocumented individuals, it was okay for her to say that. But the moment she started to criticize or say things that was offensive to individuals of the Jewish community that were conservative, that was the line that they said she couldn't touch. And to me, I'm an equal opportunity opposer, right? I don't support anti-Blackness, misogyny, xenophobia, sexism, transphobia, any of that. Anti-Semitism, I don't support any of that. And so that's what I believe. But the people that are in Ben Shapiro's world will call people like me woke snowflakes that were into censorship. However, interesting enough, the censorship and all that around anti-Semitism meant more to him than any other community. And so clearly Candace Owens is, I guess, an equal opportunity offender. She will say whatever to get ratings and attention. She didn't care as much. And apparently there was rhetoric around, you don't have the power to fire me or to counsel me or whatever. And then Ben Shapiro, who is still a white man, right, with power, reminded her who she was in that room, in that space, and she got let go, allegedly. So, of course, she's trying to make her way back home, meaning she's trying to come back and hang out with the DEIs that she denied herself of for many, many years. She wants to get back with DEIs. I think she looked in the mirror and realized that she was still DEI, that she was still a Black person, and other things, right? So she decided that she was going to make her first appearance back into the DEI community by going on The Breakfast Club, one of the most ignorant DEIs I have ever met in media, Charlamagne the God, and get this platform to try to explain herself all these years and do this interview and get this platform. Mind you, Charlamagne the God would never have me on, which I have no interest on being on at this point, but there were many years, I want to say 8 years ago, but this man has shuck and jive for Tammy Loren. He's always, he's bought all types of bigots. I shouldn't be surprised. I'm not surprised. But this is what I mean by this double standard, right? Like, it's the here we are. Now Candace Owens is getting a platform on The Breakfast Club. Now Candace Owens gets an opportunity to try to exonerate herself amongst the crowd of people. We should have known this was coming, right? Nikki Haley, these conservatives, all these different voices, Charlamagne coming on, other programs, trying to, up his stuff. This was coming, y'all. And I kept telling y'all for several, weeks, this entire year, I said, watch out for what's happening. And now it has happened. And there is just an interesting situation to be said about it. But I keep telling y'all, stay woke. But the real interesting thing that happened this past week, and I always say a broken clock is right twice. Why? Because the broken clock, wherever the arrow stays, we know that time is going to show it in the AM and in the PM. So that's why I say a broken clock is right twice a day, or twice, right? Because whatever it's pointing at will happen twice in a day. And so this is a broken clock moment. There was this interesting interview that happened on the Breakfast Club on Friday. I do not like the Breakfast Club, so I did not watch the actual episode on the Breakfast Club platform, but thank goodness that the woman who was involved in it actually shared it on her site, because she deserves the credit for this. But Mayor Eric Adams did an interview on the Breakfast Club. Charmaine the God was doing an interview, and there's been a lot of buzz about the person he did the interview with, which, yes, Charmaine the God was the one interviewing, but the big person of this was an incredible woman. Her name is, her name is Olurinati. That's her YouTube channel. But her actual name is Olayemi Olurin, but she goes by I believe it's Olay, I believe it is, but her name is Olayemi Olurin, who is an attorney. People refer to her as an abolitionist thinker. She is a social justice advocate. She's an attorney in New York, and she's been very critical of Mayor Eric Adams and all types of issues involving law enforcement in New York City. And she was a surprise person who basically fired back and interviewed him and grilled him like a steak on this show. And it was fascinating, because who would have ever thought that, this would happen on the Breakfast Club? She's made previous appearances in the past. The Breakfast Club sometimes like to pander and act like they're more, aware of social issues. But what a rare, odd moment. But she had an opportunity, because, Mayor Eric Adams has been seeing the Breakfast Club and all their shenanigans, and has gone on that show. I think they were going to give him a softball. And I think that's why Eric Adams did go on the show. Because he thought, like, look, these idiots, because normally it's a bunch of idiots typically on that show hosting, right? They're not going to really grill me or ask me tough questions, and I can go on there and talk my crazy rhetoric and really have a soft interview. So if there was ever a place he was going to go, it wasn't going to be with real journalists. It wasn't going to be with real, accountability. But interesting enough, this special guest who was on the show with him having this debate, oh my goodness, she grilled him. She really got him together. And it was an interesting moment, because I don't know if the Breakfast Club crew really understood what was going to happen or how far she was going to go, but she went there. And there's been a lot of media and police and people lying on what she was saying. And she created she has a YouTube channel, but she was fact checking them. And you can Google this, the Breakfast Club interview, Google Breakfast Club interview, Mayor Eric Adams, and it will all come up who she is and everything like that. But I didn't really know her. I heard of her I've seen a couple of videos with her over in recent years, but I don't know her personally. But she's very smart. She knows her shit, and she did something that a lot of journalists wish they could have done. I think that was the thing. Like, she was smart. She had great opinions. She was really, poised, and she really did her work, right? But it just is a damn shame that we're at this point in media where these politicians, these powerful individuals, influential individuals, cannot actually, they try to circumvent legitimate journalism and media. And thank goodness this attorney, this woman who knows her shit, was able to actually ask the questions that someone like myself and others, especially New York journalists, would have loved to ask him. And platforms like the Breakfast Club has now been weaponized as ways for powerful people to skirt accountability. So in that weird way, it actually backfired. And I wonder if this sends a message to other people, like elected officials and influential people, like, it's getting to a point that these media outlets, these non-journalism media outlets, are trying to get a moment, because I think that's the most traction I've seen a Breakfast Club interview get since some of the salaciousness of like, a Candace Owens. But it's very interesting because the Breakfast Club as a cultural fixture has lost its luster. It's been like that for many years, but I really feel like, interesting enough, this year in particular, that's where it happened. This year just feels, the personality of Charlamagne the God is relevant, but it just seems as though, it has lost its luster. And then, Jess Hilarious is from Baltimore, and it's just interesting her own, in acts in this. But I must say that, I want to go a little bit back to a conversation around the Baltimore Bridge situation. But there was someone who I know who lived in Baltimore who said that the former mayor, Catherine Hughes, who is a disgraced former mayor who, was indicted, went through the court system. Baltimore mayors have had a lot of scandal over the years, except for the current one. They said that Catherine will be too busy figuring out how to steal the bridge money right now, which was a lot. But I talked to my Baltimore news correspondent. He's a Baltimore native, but also a good friend, Joe Hamilton, who I wanted to get his take on what was going on with this statement. Like, is this legitimate? Would Catherine would have been stealing bridge money? My correspondent from Baltimore said, that lady repaid her debt to society. We got to let her live, end quotes. Now, that lady in question is Catherine. She did go to jail. She did pay some restitution for her heinous acts. And according to my correspondent, he says that we got to let her live. Look, she did her debt. She did her society. There's a lot of people, this is the part, end quote. There's a lot of people out here who, has not paid their debt to society, including Donald Trump. And it's interesting because most of the time when there's political corruption around Black elected officials, they actually do get arrested and they pay their debt to society, most of them, right? Seth Williams, he went to jail. He did what he had to do. He did. So I guess it is fair to say that. I guess the question becomes with Mayor Eric Adams for all of his antics around, alleged fear mongering and all the nonsense he's been doing with the police and all this heightened fear and all the drama, despite the fact that it appears that New York is safer, but then at the same time, he's acting like it's at its worst, it could be. It's just really weird, that dude. But, when is he going to pay his debt to society? I don't know. I remember there was FBI probes and things, and all of a sudden that kind of just went a little hush. We just got to keep an eye on him. We got to keep an eye on everything that is happening over there from Baltimore and New York, because it seems like the East Coast is really showing its ass. Even Philly is to a certain degree, respectfully. Philly's having a moment. So, the moment you all have been waiting for, because we are ready to talk about it. This Diddy raid. We got to talk about the Diddy raid. What's interesting is it's less about the raid, but more about mentality. But for those who've been living under a rock, Diddy's been going through it, right? It's been a mess for Diddy, and quite frankly, I think Diddy's canceled. I've seen enough of Diddy, and I'm not. I just don't know what to say. But Diddy's a mess, and I'm not here with it. There's a lot that's been said. Federal agents, it's been reported on various outlets that federal agents executed search warrants at his homes in Los Angeles and Miami Beach. There's several, he's currently facing several civil lawsuits accusing him of rape and sexual assault. This man is pretty much appearing to be a predator, allegedly. In journalism, I got to say that. But there's a lot going on with this man. There's been lots of reports. New York Times have covered, every national, international publication has covered this massive raid. But there's been footage of federal officers that they were brandishing weapons. They were entering his house. They were confiscating his computers and devices. People are like, what is the nature of this investigation? Is there a civil, what is this connected to the civil, sexual assault lawsuits? We don't really know. We have suspicions, right? But this happened like last Monday. They raided his house. There's lots of footage cameras. They were going through that house, okay? They were spilling out cabinets. There was a set of empty shelves that had his 3 Grammys sitting on top. It was mayhem. And now this was a lot because he was stopped by authorities because he was actually preparing to go to the Bahamas. But federal agents took a number of electronic devices off of him. He cooperated with them. Apparently, he was not detained. So we gotta make sure this is clear. Um, and, there's been a lot of reports that have claimed all types of stuff. Now, we got to be clear that his lawyer, Jonathan D. Davis, has told the press, quote, that the response to these gang rape lawsuits and all this has irreparably damaged him. They said his reputation. They said it quote resulted in them becoming victims of the cancel culture frenzy in the courts well before any evidence has been presented and on the basis of rank uncorroborated allegations. Yeah, I heard that word right, cancel culture. There was also lawyers. Another lawyer named Aaron Dreyer had said that that Homeland Security's approach to this, they called it, quote, a gross overuse of military level force and a, quote, unprecedented ambush. Quote, there has been no finding of criminal or civil liability with any of these allegations. Now, there is some arrest that has been made, some other drama going on. Apparently, a 25-year-old associate of Sean Combs was charged with cocaine possession. It's this white guy. His name is Brandon Paul. He was arrested at the Miami, Opa-locka Executive Airport. They stopped him. When they stopped Combs, they stopped him. Apparently, he used to be a Division I college football player, but he was released on bond. Has posted on social media in the past about working with Combs. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, they've said all kinds of things, but even more bizarre, there's people being named in this. Cuba Gooding Jr. has been named, acclaimed of being one of the men who, this is Oscar-winning actor, Cuba Gooding Jr., who was accused of groping, quote, allegedly, the upper inner thigh of the man who is suing him, one of the producers. There's been a lot of other accusations. Of course, the lawyer representing Mr. Gooding has, I guess, let me just say this. Cuba Gooding Jr., who's already been convicted of sexual harassment and assault in another separate incident that involved a woman, his team is trying to say that he's innocent, even though a previous situation, he had pleaded guilty to a single count of harassment. He faced a previous criminal sexual abuse case. This was a while back with Cuba Gooding Jr. Now he's being alleged in this situation. So it's a lot going on. There's also allegations of Young Miami, who, by the way, blocked me on Twitter. Young Miami is being named in some documents allegedly of getting, pink cocaine for Diddy. There's allegations of all types of sexual abuse. There's other artists named in these allegations. It's a lot going on. So here's the thing. CDJ has been named. Diddy has been in Miami since the raid. He was out with Stevie J, who's a known producer who used to produce with and done music with the likes of Mariah Carey, Beyoncé in the past, Biggie Smalls. There's been a long relationship with Diddy and him. And so there's a lot going on here for Sean Combs. Here's the thing for me. So much of the conversation has been rooted in homophobia and kink shaming and all this other stuff. And we have not really gotten into a lot of the other concerns, right? Everyone wants to know, did Meek Mill and him allegedly hook up, Diddy? And who's been at the house and who's been around? And it's become less about that. And I feel like what I heard a really good friend of mine say, and this is something that stuck with me, is that the reason why a lot of these celebrities and a lot of these men, like just men in general, cishet men who've been talking to social media about it, is because they don't want to talk about the sexual assault, the predatory behavior towards underage women allegedly, the predatory behavior, all of these things, because those are things that all of them are guilty of probably doing. But the one thing that they just cannot acknowledge or want to affiliate themselves with is the conversations around queerness and homosexuality and all of these other things. That's the thing where the line goes wrong. And I've always heard these things growing up that they said, you can be anything in the world but be gay. You can in certain communities and spaces and in certain circles, you can rape someone, you can abuse a woman, you can do all these different things. But if you're gay, that is considered the ultimate cardinal sin to some people. That's the ultimate original sin. That's the no-no. That's the thing that will keep you out the circle. And it's interesting because everything else, the biggest discussions about Diddy is about whether or not he was having relations with other men, right? which, interesting enough, is not a crime. Is nothing wrong with that. If Diddy was bisexual and he was having consensual sex with other men, and he wasn't doing anything sexually harassing or abusing them or doing anything of that nature, we shouldn't give a fuck. None of that will lead to Homeland Security raiding his home. However, because of the other allegations of abuse and sexual harassment of not just men allegedly, but also women, young girls potentially, there's been neighbors suggesting that there's been some trafficking going on. We'll find out, right? But all of that should be the real thing that should drive us. I'm more concerned and alarmed by these allegations because let me tell you something. If the federal government is raiding your homes, if the federal government is coming in, busting through your house like that, going through your stuff, there is some real smoke. Okay? Where there is smoke, there is fire. This is no longer a situation that is like, okay, I heard through the grapevine Diddy did this. This is beyond just civil. This is going into potential criminal charges. This is bigger than a couple of allegations where Diddy can cut some checks and pay some people off. This is getting really serious. And for those people on the sidelines that are just continuing to treat this like a joke, and I know folks like to do that because it's uncomfortable. People kept asking, when was Me Too going to hit the hip hop movement? Russell Simmons had a moment that was short-lived. I mean, he's a jerk. He's a piece of trash. I believe the victims, right? I believe the survivors, right? I believe the survivors. But Diddy, this situation is serious, right? Because, I mean, these are big, major hip-hop moguls. These are not like, I mean, this is a moment. And what's going to happen to Diddy is, I believe, it's going to be a watershed moment. Diddy's not going down by himself. If he is going to go down, again, allegedly. But if you don't ask my personal opinion, I think where there is smoke, there's fire. I just don't believe that everybody is lying. I don't believe that. I don't believe that everybody is just saying what they're saying. I believe there is something is here. And I hope that we get a swift justice for those survivors and those victims. I just think we need to know more. And more is coming. And so, to me, to hear Meek Mill and other people spend so much time defending their masculinity and having these conversations about sexual orientation, we see how homophobic people are. We see how disgusting people are. And I want to tell every single person I know this. If you're having these conversations with adults about Diddy's allegations, and the conversation is focused on sex parties and with other men, and we're not talking about potential human trafficking. We're not talking about potential sex crimes and abuse of young people. If we're not talking about that, then you really shouldn't be calling these people your friends. You really need to get a new friend group. You really need to reevaluate the who these people are. Because to me, it just seems like this reminds me of Surviving R. Kelly all over again, where so much of the conversation I remember in that documentary was when they start coming out that there was seemed to be a fetish that R. Kelly had where it was not just young women, but also some men, right? That they were also potential victims of R. Kelly. Then people began to be fixated on the fact that he could have been molesting young men or potentially doing that. And I was like, but we're not going to talk about all these underage women, these young girls. Oh, because you thought that they asked for it, right? These are the things that let us know how people really feel. And we should not sleep on that. Speaking of people we should not speak on. So every March 31st for the past several years is Transgender Day of Visibility, TDOV. And as you all know, in the late fall, it is TDOR, Trans Day of Remembrance. For those who don't understand these holidays, let me be very clear. Every March 31st, Transgender Day of Visibility is a moment where, number one, many progressive cities will do a flag raising of the transgender flag, which is baby blue, white, and pink stripes. And they will, and they do this to celebrate the importance of the transgender community, that transgender non-binary people exist, and that this is a day to recognize their visibility. Now, Over here, Ernestly speaking, transgender people exist every day out, not just March 31st. And we celebrate trans authors and influencers and creators. And that's just my way of life, right? I support that community because they're part of my community. We're all together. But March 31st is a big damn deal, right? And so this year, of course, March 31st was Easter. And there was a lot of conversations about the fact that this day landed the same time. And there are people like Caitlyn Jenner, who is trans, but she's a conservative, far right voice that honestly is an affluent trans woman who can afford the luxuries of have internalized transphobia while also playing the hand of conservatives for the tokenism to try to feel included. It's like internal hate there, right? But she tried to play into this conspiracy theory that this woke society, again, you know where she's going, right? That there's this wokeness that, that they're trying to make Easter, which is a Christian holiday, and Transgender Day of Visibility a thing, right? Now, again, Transgender Day of Visibility always happens on March 31st. And to be clear, Easter is going to always land on a particular Sunday of the year, right? There's a specific Sunday in which the calendar works, right? So TDOV is going to happen on March 31st, whether it's a Monday, whether it's a Friday, Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day, it's always going to land around that time. However, for people like Caitlyn Jenner, they always want to create a conspiracy that doesn't exist. Well, a big deal also happened. Joe Biden declared March 31st at the White House, considered a national day of remembrance, and wrote a proclamation, declared it. And in his executive order as president, it's a national day. It's a special day. And what type of allyship is that? In a good way. That's what allyship looks like. He stepped up, even on Easter Sunday, to do that, which is a pretty big deal. Well, other people who have something to say always have something to say about business that do not have anything to do with them. Tyrese decided to open up his annoying ass mouth yet again, and this time make a long Facebook post, to Instagram post, and basically go on his tirade about the Bible and religious faith, and then talked about, Biden's decision to do this Transgender Day on Easter Sunday and all of this bullshit. But he didn't know what he was talking about. Per usual, Tyrese does not oftentimes know what he's talking about. And it's interesting because it's so funny how these guys typically get really religious and get really, all that when either they're going broke or whether it's an issue involving the LGBTQ community. Or sometimes, the iconic, it's a wicked world we live in when you want to scare away from accountability. It's very interesting when people lean on their faith and conviction. So somehow people become the most devout Christians when they're trying to exercise hate towards a group of people that they don't personally feel like they can connect to. That the bigotry through the Bible has always been an old pastime of disgusting, despicable people who, quite frankly, never hollered to God. I just wonder, was you, really... there's so much to say about Tyrese. I would just say my favorite phrase, too easy. He's too easy. Where do I begin? Do I begin with his lackluster R&B career that started off really high and just kind of faltered? Do I start with the fact that the only reason why he's been clinging to relevance is because of his ridiculous social media antics? This guy went from being on the charts to being in to being in the Shade Room comments. Do I start with the fact that he has been on more Fast and Furious films than any actual platinum-selling albums he's ever produced? The fact that he's literally been straggling on the Fast and Furious dollar for his relevance and has been trying to beef with more relevant stars like The Rock, or Dwayne Johnson, if you're nasty, to be able to, cling on to this relevance and this self-importance that really, quite frankly, has been faltering. What a disappointment. But now he's found himself back in the news, not because of a new album or some new movie opportunity or, I don't know, just something more productive. He's back in news, bashing somebody and, speaking up on something. And of course, the Shade Room has to acknowledge and make us all have to talk about it. But for better or for worse, here we are, right? This transphobe just wants a moment in the spotlight. That's about it, right? That's all I got for him. Bless his heart. And for those who want to know more about T-Door, that is Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is in late November. And Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is known as T-Door, is to remember the trans community. Transgender Day of Remembrance is always on November 20th. So for those who want to keep the calendar, just in case, I don't know, Easter Part 2 happens November, 20th, or Thanksgiving lands, I don't know shit. Remember, March 31st is always going to be Trans Day of Visibility, and November 20th is always going to be Transgender Day of Remembrance. Remembrance is reflecting those who memorialize those who have been murdered by transphobia. It's a real thing. I mean, the black transgender women have been exponentially killed, by all types of issues in the community. And, my good friend Raquel Wills, who wrote the great book, she wrote a book. Speaking of Transgender Day of Visibility, she wrote the book, this iconic book that I went on a book tour with her, and I love the book. It's called The Risk It Takes to Bloom by Raquel Willis. And she's an incredible trans advocate. She was a pivotal voice. She's a black trans woman who's beautiful inside and out, and she's really made a name for herself talking on these issues. Follow her on Instagram if you haven't. She responded to all the nonsense around Caitlyn Jenner and people trying to make a conspiracy theory out of March 31st, Easter, and everything else. So definitely support her if you don't know who she is. But how could you not? Because of course we've been, I've been, working with her, doing things for her. But she's awesome. So just want to say that. So Lizzo has been in the news because she's saying she wants to quit in her career. I'm just kind of like, okay, girl. Lizzo is complicated. And y'all been following me if anybody's been watching this show for several years, I can finally say about my podcast, several years, that I've always had this weird relationship, this weird thing about Lizzo. Like, there's times where I'm like rooting for Lizzo, but then recently there's times I just kind of side eye Lizzo's decisions and what she say. But she's a black woman, she's a plus size black woman in an industry that's very hateful, and she's dark skinned, and so there's a lot of there's grace to be given and understanding. And so I've always as a man, just in general, has always wanted to give Lizzo that. I mean, she grew up in Houston. We went to the same high school. She went to Alif Elsick High School, which is where I went. And she did marching band there before she had left and transferred to another city, another state. But I've always had this about Lizzo, because while she's wildly talented, and yes, she struggles with insecurity and other issues sometimes, there's always been a part of her that just always felt, kind of. So, there's been a lot of allegations around her, acting inappropriately, allegations of fat shaming and all kind of sexual misconduct pertaining to some of the women that's been going out with her on various entertainment gigs and opportunities. And there has been some charges and some stuff that's been dropped, but she tried to get the entire cases dismissed. And now the judge has ruled that the whole cases cannot be thrown out, that there will be a trial and there will be a process, and that I guess some of this stuff sticks, and there's some dates that corroborate, and there's some stuff that feels like there should be a lawsuit, there should be a full suit. So there is some real concerns around, what's going on over there. But I just think it's been very telling that there's some a lot of stuff being said about, well, is there some smoke where there's fire? But her response has been very cryptic. She's like, she's tired of people lying on her. She hasn't really said who or what, but she's tired of this industry and this, that, and the third, and she wants to leave. Now, there was some things, and people didn't pick up on this, but there was a lot of criticism around Lizzo. One of the attorneys representing the accusers basically said that, Lizzo performed at the Obama, Bill Clinton, and Biden fundraiser for Biden in New York. And that Lizzo was there. She took pictures. She performed all this stuff. And the lawyer was saying what a shame of them to be able to have her when she's being accused of all these different things. And it is quite interesting. But the academy, the industry has been very interesting with Lizzo. And I think for various reasons. And I have my own thoughts about this too. So, she's accused of all these things. And according to quote unquote cancel culture, right? Lizzo should be, kind of not being able to be in the spotlight, arguably. But, Beyonce is still shouting her out and showing her love. Beyonce showed a lot of love during her Renaissance tour in spite of the allegations. She made an appearance at the Grammys and got to give SZA a Grammy, and made a televised appearance. She's been still getting awards and being honored and showing up at major Hollywood events. It just seems as though the cancellation of Lizzo hasn't actually happened. And the question could be, why? I think because people just don't believe the allegations. And that's not to say that they're not true or invalidate them, but I think, number one, I think people just don't believe them. I think there is also an element of the fact that this seems to be very different from the character that people have known Lizzo for, right? Lizzo has been known for body empowerment. Lizzo has been known for a lot of different things. And so there is a sense that, this is just too shocking to believe. It kind of reminds me of Michael Jackson, right? When there was all of these things being said about Michael Jackson in the beginning, right? Because, closer to his death, his later years, it became a running joke and people basically could not stop referring to him as Wacko Jacko. But in the very beginning of Michael Jackson's career, when these, in the early 90s, when these allegations first came out about Michael Jackson potentially sexually molesting underage boys, there were people who were just like, that just seems so bizarre. The best way people would describe it is like, could you imagine Beyonce being accused of something like that? I mean, that is what it felt like for some people, or like someone like Whitney Houston being accused of something like that. Like, it took many years for people to come to terms with believing that Whitney had a drug problem, because of just how talented she was, because that starness surprised people. So I think that's where we're at. And I'm not comparing Lizzo to Michael Jackson or to Whitney or anything like that. I'm just saying that we have seen this before in history where people have been believed in the beginning passages before maybe people were not believed. And I don't know what this trial will reveal about Lizzo potentially or allegedly that could potentially change people's perspective. But right now, I think people are looking at Lizzo and just not believing that she could be she could be responsible for something like this. And so there is a protection and shield in the industry. And also, and Lizzo makes a lot of people money. And people think Lizzo's an industry plant. I'm not going to go that far into that personally, but there's a lot of reasons why I can see people still kind of not jumping into completely canceling Lizzo. Because Lizzo has not shown a side like that before. You look at Diddy and people are just not defending Diddy really. I mean, there's a couple of idiots that are doing it, but largely the industry there's been things said about Diddy for decades, right? There's been all kind of things said about Diddy. I think people I will be honest, I'm not surprised that Diddy is being accused of these things. Even though I have never witnessed Diddy personally, there's always been chatter about it. I mean, there's certain people in this industry that if certain people in this industry got in trouble for accusation of things or had a moment, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to go here. Like if somebody said, like when they accused Trey Songz of abuse and assault, I wasn't surprised. When they accused, if there is some major allegations around Tyler Perry, I personally would not be surprised. I'm not saying that, I'm not in a position to speak on anything about Tyler Perry and the accusations, but there's been things that have been said in the press. I just personally would not be surprised if there was things said about Tyler Perry. Or if there were like, lawsuits, I wouldn't be shocked. That's me personally. Like if they said Meryl Streep was out here doing some stuff, yeah, I would be shocked. If they said Viola Davis was doing some things, yeah, I would be shocked. If they said Denzel was doing some things, I would be shocked, right? There's just certain people who I feel have just carried a level of, I'm just gonna leave it there. You don't hear things about certain people because there's no smoke there. And with Lizzo, I think some people are like, look, I don't see Lizzo. I never heard of this around Lizzo, but we never know. So we're just going to stay woke and just keep our eyes open. That's all I'm going to say. And our ears open and just observe. Louis Gossett Jr., who is the first Black man to ever receive the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in the late 80s for his performance in An Officer and a Gentleman, passed away at 87 years old. Now, people might say, is he the first black man to ever win an Oscar? Because normally it's supporting before you get to lead. Actually, no, it's actually the opposite. Um, Sidney Poitier in the 60s was the first black man to win an Academy Award for acting as Best Actor for his performance in Lilies of the Field. But with women, of course, we know there's only been one black woman who's ever won an Oscar for Best Actress, and that was Halle Berry. Now, that comes after several women before her. Actually, not that many women before her, actually. It was Hattie McDaniel, who was the first person to ever win, a first actor, male or woman, to ever win an Academy Award for acting. And that was for her performance in Best Supporting Actress when she won for, wow, what did she win for that? I'm seeing one film, but Gone with the Wind. And she played what people consider a mammy character. Well, that's when they would say the mammy title character, but she was in Gone with the Wind and she won Best Supporting Actress for her performance in Gone with the Wind, interesting enough. And that movie won a ton of Oscars and a black woman won. The performance, of course, has been criticized throughout history, but it was still a trailblazing moment. Right after that, Sidney Poitier had won the Oscar. And then after that, Louis Gossett Jr. won. And then after that, Whoopi Goldberg won the Supporting Actress Oscar for Ghost and was the second woman in nearly, 60-something years to win an Oscar between that gap. And then after that, Cuba Gooding Jr. won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for Jerry Maguire. And then in 2021, Halle Berry and Denzel in one night both won Academy Awards. Denzel became the second black the second black actor in history to win Best Actor, following Sidney Poitier, who that same night in 2001, won a Lifetime Achievement Award. So that was interesting. 3 black people winning, that was unheard of. And then Halle Berry won Best Actress for Monsters Ball. And she became the first woman of color, first black woman, period, to win. The second woman of color to win was last year for Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was an incredible performance and changed the game for, Asian actresses. But that was Michelle Yeoh who won and became the second woman of color to win. Now, this year, we kind of really wanted, for Killers of the Flower Moon, we wanted to make history again to see if an indigenous actor can win, but that did not happen. And I'm still bitter about that. I'm a little salty about that. I really wanted Lily Gladstone to win, but it just didn't happen. Emma Stone won again, which now is Emma Stone has more Best Actress Oscars than black actresses in total. Do what you will with that, but I digress. Louis Gossett Jr. is an incredible actor, legendary actor. He acted till the end of his days. I mean, he was in The Color Purple. He had a cameo performance in that. He's been in several great films throughout his life. He never stopped acting, and so he's lived a long life. And we're gonna miss him. So this week's Ask Ernest was twofold. Somebody asked me, I'm going to briefly say this. They were like, is it too late to do April Fools? Y'all, we grown. We're not doing April Fools. The world has too many fools in society that to try to do April Fools would just be silly. Like, I don't want to do it. I'm too old. I'm too grown. To be quite honest, if you pull April Fool's joke at this point in age, people will believe it because the world it's just too much going on right now. It's just too much going on nowadays for anybody to really play an April Fool's joke. I just don't even see how it could work, how it's possible, quite frankly. So no April Fools, okay? But this is a really good one that came up for this week's Ask Ernest. And this is a guy who asked me this question. A black guy. Won't say his name. But I'm gonna get into it. And honestly, so there was some drama. Update for last week, because I have an update. So remember the guy I told you who was basically like this girl he used to work with. They work in the same building, but she likes to go to a food, cafeteria. We're not going to name the area because I might give away where they're working. But pretty much, every time, there was a lunch, she would always hit him up so that basically she would pay for the lunch. Well, newsflash. Apparently, the guy last week who submitted the question says that he finally did kind of, talk to her about his thoughts and his feelings and really check in. And she basically said that she wasn't in a place interested in dating. Like she's not in a place for a relationship, but she finds him, cool and she wants to get to know him. And he just basically kind of decided to move on past the situation. So pretty much she was leading him on for lunch. She wasn't the gold digger, she was a lunch digger, but she was basically, she was playing games. So that's update. So this week's question, this guy he's black, he's in his mid 30s. He basically is, well, I guess he practices law. Hopefully, don't put that out there, I don't know. But he's out here, he's in Philly, he's dating different women. And pretty much he says that, lately he's been dating this particular woman. She doesn't have a college degree or an associate's degree, apparently. She did not go to college. She didn't go to, that. She didn't do that. She doesn't have a degree, but he has clearly a law degree. And lately they've been going on dates and there's been just this, he's attracted to her. He says she's beautiful. He says that they have good chemistry. But there seems to be these gaps in between conversations of rigor and intellectual discourse. He said he was talking to her about the election. She's registered to vote. She understands it's important to vote. She's not a conservative. He wanted to clarify that. But she seems to be having these really generic perspectives about the world. And he doesn't want to feel elitist, but he is trying to struggle with the fact that he really does like her. But he does feel that in many ways, the fact that she doesn't have a degree comes up. And sometimes there's a sense of resentment when he goes out networking and hanging out with his friends. And he wants to understand, what to do with it. He feels guilty to leave her because he thinks that will feed into him being an elitist. He says he's not elitist. He does a lot of work around issues around defending youth and social justice. And that's just not what he stands for. But he does feel like this is a very interesting relationship dynamic and he doesn't know how to deal with it. And he asked me for advice. And he also asked me if I ever dealt with a similar thing. So, oh my goodness. This is a very, very interesting question. And I was shocked because first of all, let me just say this. I really love that you all see me ask Ernest questions. And I get a bunch of them. And sometimes I look at them, I'm like, maybe I should say this and use it. But this is a very interesting one, just the dynamics, gender. Because, guys like, well, I'm not going to stereotype, but, look, you're a lawyer. You seem to be doing well for yourself. No judgment. I don't know how he met her. Maybe a dating app. I don't want to assume. But, you met her, you're attracted to her, seems to be a good chemistry. There seems to be a learning gap or curve or something going on there, and you just don't know what to do. I guess you want to know, is it wrong for you to feel the way you feel about the degree situation? So I'll talk a little bit about myself. Before Mr. Johnson, which meant that I really did not have a dating life. I dated people in college, but I haven't dated anyone out of college. So I haven't really been single in the quote unquote real world. Right before I was headed out of Penn, I walked away with a degree. I walked away with my BA and my MRS. I kind of got wifed up, I just kind of got, taken off the market. Mr. Johnson just, I got in a relationship. So I don't, so I just want to say, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt because my expertise in this is very limited, but I do have some things to say because I do have friends and people I know and situations. So I will give the best advice I can. So when I was in college dating guys out of college, I did not go to college. I found there to be an interesting dynamic. It also reminds me of my high school, leaving high school, going to college perspective. This is all in perspective. So I just want to say that. I want to frame it that way. So when I was in school, right, I was an undergrad, I did not have that much money. I mean, most of my money was coming from refund checks from scholarships. I was doing, some freelance stuff, making some money. My parents were sending me some money, uncle was making me go get that Western Union. Listen, he's old school. My uncle lives in Chicago. He's old school. Okay. He always will make me go to Western Union. He still sends me money just to be nice and just send me stuff. But he will always make me go to Western Union and get a damn cashier's check or whatever it is. And I remember I had to go to the store and get it. And it would be like, I'd be like, I'd be like $50, $100, but I would have to go and I have to go to like Rite Aid or something and do the little number thing. Child, the only person I would do that with, but he would send me real money though, I would say that. But it would just be like, I had to go do that. But anyway, I didn't have a lot of money in undergrad. Like I didn't come into money until like, about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But really it was, it was college life, right? And I was a student, I was a college student. So like, duh, I wasn't having no money. But I remember dealing with my friend, like my old, like my high school what classmates, right? They didn't go to school. A lot of them did not go to college. They just didn't. They couldn't afford it, they didn't want to do it. But I just remember they were like, getting these jobs in Texas, getting these really cool like union jobs and all this stuff. And they were just making bread. And I was seeing them out here just making all types of money. And I was like, damn, like, and I would always, but I was never one of the types that would be like, I'm broke. No, I never did that because let me be very clear. Going to an Ivy League school on a scholarship, priceless. Okay. And I want to say that because I have to check people a lot of times that get on the internet just saying crazy stuff about college. Is it worth this? Is it this? Let me tell you something. I don't do the whole college versus listen, everybody has their own life. Everybody has their own journeys. People have their own experiences. College has now become, unfortunately, this mass luxury that, people have to decide, right? And it is complicated. But despite all of that shit, it made me. I would not have what I have today without these damn degrees, especially my undergrad degree. I would not have it. I would not have my husband, who I met there. I would not have some of my friends that I have built with. I wouldn't have a lot of the depth, the skills, the understanding, the intellect to be able to do it. Now, granted, could you do some of the things I do without a degree? Yes, but you could not be Ernest without a college degree. I'm sorry. Find me that person because they don't exist. And that's not me being elitist. It's not me being, whatever. I'm just being real that I think there is certain experiences and understanding and training and things you get in college. And I think sometimes when I look at some of my friends that sometimes question the college degree, I just look at them and say, look at what you've done. Look at where you've been able to go. And if you think that you could have done it without a college degree, do you have it in you to go out there and work certain types of jobs? Do you have it in you to interact with certain people? Do you have the cultural competency and emotional capacity to be able to be in different spaces? I'm going to be real with you. As a Black queer man, I don't think going out into the workforce would have been a safe space for me to be who I wanted to be. I don't think it would have been. Now, granted, there's millions of people who have to do it, right? But I have friends who are not in the college spaces, but they're smart. They're because let me be clear. I don't want to translate a degree to intelligence. There's a lot of people with college degrees that is ignorant and dumb as fuck, right? Look, Trump is a good example, right? But he's also rich. He bought that degree. He don't really count. But even people who don't, right? They're still people that are ignorant and jerks. But I think about the life experiences I've had and the way that I've been able to learn and make mistakes and grow in my understanding about society and the world around me in an environment that encourage healthy discourse, healthy debate, healthy dialogue and discourse. There are people that learned a lot from me in a college space that never had interactions with Black gay men that were, intellectual, that they thought were, that they hadn't seen on TV or stereotyped in a certain way. As there are people that learned a lot about who I was through those experiences. There's a lot of people I learned about through college experiences. I learned a lot. It's just so much more. It's an invaluable experience. And quite frankly, I mean, if there was ever a thing to go in good debt for, a college degree would be it, in my opinion. Like, people go in debt trying to buy cars they can't fucking afford. People go in debt trying to buy all kind of dumb shit, right? But if there was ever a thing to go in debt for, I mean, a real college experience where you get to be a part of student groups and learn and be around people, that is debt worth getting. Because if you really maximize it and really go in there, like when I went to Penn, like even though I didn't have college student debt or anything, I mean, shit, I would have done it anyway. I mean, the level of experiences and people I got to meet and things. I remember for a period of time, my younger brother, who was currently at Temple, had a moment where he was like, I don't really know about college. I said, you have to go. You have to go. It was, oh my God, like he is so, I mean, he's come out of his shell. He was always kind of introverted, but he is just so, I mean, I love him. Like I love him. I would have loved him regardless, but he is just seeing him mature and just seeing him develop into this so, I mean, the way he talks about issues, I'm in awe. I'm inspired. I just become a proud big brother. Just see him just talk about his views on politics and the world and his experiences, his internships, all the stuff he's doing. I'm excited, and it's just something we just connect a different way. I just connect a different way. And, yeah, I think there's something to be said for that experience. And I think that, I don't know personally for myself if, given my experiences dating other men before Mr. Johnson, like I did go out and date a little bit different people. And I realized that I found myself in situations where there was the compatibility was not there. And it was maybe because of the type of guys I was dating that were not college educated. Because not all non-degree carrying dudes are the same. Like, I don't want to stereotype people, but I guess the ones I was going for just was not fulfilling that for me. But there's people that are different. Like one of the people who I have the biggest conversation with all the time, one of my best friends forever, did not go and graduate from a 4-year college, but he is so intelligent and so knowledgeable about the world and so knowledgeable about things. And so, hell, if I would have, I mean, that's my best friend, like clearly my friend, but I'm looking at people like, if you are not like him and you can't have a conversation, you don't know what's going on, you don't have a ability to be able to really be well read. And because listen, college does not make you just, is not the well-read people are not only to be found in college. Well-informed people are not only to be found in college, but it gets a little harder, right? And so you do got to go a little bit there, right? You do got to go a little bit out there. You do got to find unique people. And sadly, I feel like in society, it does sometimes feel like it's an anomaly. And so what I will tell you is that if you feel like there is an intellectual disconnect between you two and it seems to be making you uncomfortable, spend less time focused on whether or not that person has that degree and more on if that person is compatible with you on that level. Because it just can't be about sex. It just can't be about romance. It can't be about that. Really, at the end of the day, you need to figure out if there's a social compatibility. Can this person hold their own? Can this person be in a space where they can think critically? Can this person be in a space where they can be mature and knowledgeable and all of the things? And we should be looking for people like that regardless of degrees, right? Because again, I have met people out here that have all these degrees and still is ignorant as fuck. So it's not about the degrees for me. I'm talking about my experience with it, because there are people that out here do the whole college ain't everything shit. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be that person. Because we don't have to, right? Everybody's experience, right? Some people feel like college would be just nothing but money and debt. They only see college as a financial ruin. And there are experiences like that. And that, listen, it is what it is for some people. I think for me, because I've been exposed to parents and people that have been college educated, regardless of debt, regardless of circumstances, it was just something that was a rite of passage for me to get into my adulthood in my world. And I will never just shit on it, right? It just allowed me to just be a better me. And I don't know if I could have navigated the industry I'm in without being where I was. So I'm always going to be pro-college. I know that people got their experiences and stories, and to each their own. I respect people's take on it. But I also do think, though, in any setting, don't, and this is for my college educated people, do not treat the degree as the definition of any type of status or level a person is on. Because that, in my opinion, is elitist. I don't judge people based on it. And I think people shouldn't judge college people based on it. Don't think that, oh, because a person has a degree, they automatically is blah, 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 blah. We can't make those assumptions. We need to actually get to know people and vibe. So the thing is that I think what I would tell you, sir, who's listening and asks for his advice, is degree or not, right? There seems to be a disconnect, right? And you need to figure out for yourself, are you uncomfortable because you don't have a degree? Is it a situation where you all going to, you got all your lawyer friends and y'all have your little happy hours and social mixes and stuff, and it seems like when she comes in space, people are asking that question. Because there are spaces where people come say, oh, where did you go to school? Where did you go here? Where you go there? Whatever. And is it that she's uncomfortable about that? Is she feeling some type of way? Is she looking at the other women lawyers around you and other women that might feel like she doesn't belong? How is that environment shaping the way the dynamic is? And my whole thing is whatever you are, whoever you are, whatever you have, if you can't stand on business and be comfortable in who you're dating and not showing resentment and not doing it. Because that was the thing that I found interesting, is that when I was in these relationships, again, every guy is different. One of my best friends doesn't have a college degree at all, and he's not feeling any type of way about how I am living my life and my career. And I don't judge him for anything. Like, we support each other. What I would tell people is that actually I got several friends. I'm thinking like there's multiple friends about it. No one is judging each other. And what's interesting thing is that they support what I do, and I support how they do. I don't want to convert them and tell them you need to do this, because I understand that for them it's working the way they need to work for them. Look, Beyonce don't have a college degree. She says she don't know much about algebra either. Seems like she's doing fine in her own world, but everybody's different, right? And so what I thought was interesting in my dynamics in my relationship, and I don't know what's going on in this per situation, but I always felt like the dudes that I was dating in undergrad that did not have degrees and we were, going out, they seem to be the one that would project a lot of thoughts about things. Oh, Mr. Ivy League. Oh, blah, 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 blah. We have an argument. They'll say, oh, you think you know more than me. You da, da. They would project a lot of that shit on me. And I always felt like I was the one being, looked at a certain way or being surveilled. Like every time I would go out with my friends on campus or something, they'd be like, oh, you gonna leave me for a Princeton DEI. And that DEI wasn't black person. That was another word. Okay. I just like using it now. DEI. I think it's funny how it's been reclaimed. But anyway, people would say that to me. And I would say to them, I was like, dude, like, I'm with you. I don't want nobody from Penn. I swore up and down I was not going to get me a DEI from Penn. I just thought that was not going to be me. And a lot of people knew that. Some of my friends out here want to educated goons, but that's another story. I don't know what the hell that is. But anyway, but I was never, that never was my thing, right? I just was very open to different people and different experiences. So I never judged people like that. But this was different. This was a different experience. And so I found myself on that. I think with you, I think the reality is two things. One, how is she acting to your overall swagger? Does she feel intimidated? Does she feel uncomfortable? Does she feel a type of way about your status and who you are? And is that shaping the way y'all are clashing? Do you deep down feel bothered and it agitates you that you have achieved these things and she's not matching you on that level in a relationship? And is that why there is some awkwardness? Is the people around you influencing how you feel? And is that shaping your opinion as well? Like, these are the real questions you got to ask yourself, right? And then the conversation about compatibility and discourse. Degrees aside, are y'all not as intellectually compatible? And if that's something that's a big one for you, seems like it is, and it's not working, then maybe you should reevaluate the relationship. But don't make it a discussion about degree or not to be, because then it does fall a little bit into elitism, because you're implying that her not having a degree means that that's why the intellectual conversation is not happening. Because I know people who have degrees and cannot talk about politics. Okay? They can't. Okay? You would be surprised. Like we cannot, I think, again, it goes both ways. my people who don't have degrees, stop acting like people with degrees know it all, that they somebody, some Einstein, because a lot of them are not, sweetheart. I know, trust me, okay? Adderall and cheating is real for some of these people. Now, to my people with degrees, don't act like folks that don't have degrees are just out here not working, not doing stuff. Everybody got different circumstances, choices. Some people have to not be in school for various reasons you don't know. Everybody needs to do it, but give people a chance if there is some interest, okay? But don't life is too short to be having all these long lists of no deals. Now I do have a couple, right? Like I'm just saying, if you mean to do, listen, there is a couple of non-negotiables, but I think we just, as the world evolves, we just got to understand, especially with the way that people are talking about schools and things. Just have the conversation, get a vibe, and then move accordingly. The end. That's what I got. So, moving on, movies. There's been a lot going on with movies. So in TV too, right? So I put this in TV. So, okay. I'm going to talk about a TV show, even though it really fits in movie. It shouldn't be a movie, it should be in TV. But this conversation works. So there's been a lot of remakes conversations. People talking about, what about remakes? Y'all, I think overall I'm over remakes. I'm tired of remakes. I'm remake the fuck out. I don't want no more remakes. I don't know how. I just don't need no more remakes, y'all. I don't know. I'm not excited about remakes. I just don't know. Like I'm okay with people adapting something. Like I'm excited about Wicked being adapted from the stage to the screen, right? I'm okay with adaptions, right? But just people remaking things that we already know, I don't know how I feel about that. And so, there's a lot being said. So Good Times is a TV show on Netflix. And that is there's a remake. And it's horrible. It's horrible. It doesn't make sense for the world we live in today. It's just so tone deaf. The graphics, the stereotypes. I'm like, who decided to do this? I saw some of the executive producers. I think they said Steph Curry's one of the executive producers and people. I don't know why people thought this was a good idea. I don't like it. I just think it's trash. I mean, stereotypes aside, it's just so weird and unnecessary. And it does not live to the spirit of the original Good Times and what that meant at the era that it was. It's just not good. It's just terrible. And it's an animated series and it's just so despicable. And I hope that it doesn't exist. I wish it gets canceled after the first season. I hope they don't ever show it again. It's a waste of money. I'm so annoyed with the talent and the people there's some really talented people that's behind it. I'm like, did you need the money that bad? It's just terrible. Sorry. I'm not a fan. I don't need to know anything about it. I don't like it. And I saw the trailer and it just didn't do it for me. There's Bad Boys 4, Ride or Die. I don't know how I feel about it. I guess I'm a little excited about it. I mean, another Bad Boys. I guess there could be more sequels that we don't really need in this world. But okay, after this, y'all got to wrap this up, Will and Martin Lawrence. I think maybe the reason why I'm a little interested is because, look, Bad Boys 2 is probably one of my all-time favorite sequels. The first Bad Boys was great. But the second Bad Boys, that was like a whole different game. I feel like Bad Boys 2 was like, oh my God, Jerry Bruckheimer had some money, baby. He had a budget, but the Gabrielle Union was, that was iconic. That soundtrack, that was a movie. Okay. And I was super young when Bad Boys 2 came out, but even I remember Bad Boys 2. Like I remember the iconicness of Bad Boys 2. Bad Boys 2 came out in wow, y'all, we're getting old. Bad Boys 2 came out when I was like 12 years old. It came out in 2003. 2003, Bad Boys 2 came out. Okay, and the original Bad Boys came out in 1995. So the original Bad Boys is going to turn 30 years old next year. And the sequel turned 20 years old last year. Like Will Smith and Marlon Lawrence is still out here getting the bad guys. Bad Boys, Bad Boys for Life came out, the third one came out in 2020, right before the pandemic, and was a box office success. So it's going to be, they went from, this is wild, they went from an 8-year gap between the first and second film to then a 17-year gap. And now they sped it up, and now there's going to be a 4-year gap between the next sequel. Okay, Bad Boys, the original one, is turning 30 years old next year. And fun fact, my husband was born in 95. So that is wild. Like, yeah, that is wild. Like, I remember Bad Boys 2. I didn't remember the first Bad Boys. I mean, I watched it years later, but I remember that summer when it came out. I remember the song, Shake It Like a Tail Feather. We was doing the chicken head. Oh, God, Diddy was on that song. I mean, listen, it was a moment. Nelly, oh, my goodness. That was a song, right? That was an era. I remember the chicken head. I remember them dances. That was 20 years ago. Goodness gracious. I was like 12. That was a song. A moment. I just remember the Bad Boys 2 era. I wasn't even grown. I don't even know what the hell was going on. But I just remember how I felt in that moment in movies and things. That was a moment. But yeah, they're coming back, and so I'm excited about it. Also, on Tubi. Now, Tubi got a lot of ratchet shows, but Tubi's has an incredible documentary that was on Vice TV before Vice shut down. Alexis Johnson, who's a Black journalist that I know, she's really cool. She's an incredible Black journalist. She won an Emmy. Young, she's talented. She's a part of this project. It's called When Black Women Go Missing, which is based off of this great podcast that features so many great Black women. That is about Black Girl Missing. It's a very great podcast. I'm promoting a lot of it. But basically, this documentary talks about how there are tons of Black women that have been trafficked, going missing, and where are they? Why does the media not talking enough about them? And, talking to families and victims and things. It's a very great documentary. If you're looking for something different, go on Tubi. It's called When Black Women Go Missing. Please watch it. Also, do I want to get into... I want to reverse this a little bit. I'm going to talk about TV because I know music is going to have another conversation. And this is a super long... Listen, last week was crazy. This past week, listen, this is a deluxe episode. I know I'm giving it to y'all because y'all be wanting these long episodes. And now that I'm just I'm just giving y'all the hits, right? Because there's so much to talk about. So I want to talk about TV. I'm going to switch the order this time around. Summer House, Martha's Vineyard is my show. If you have not been watching this season 2, I've been converting my friends to watch it. Jamarcus is a big fan. We all was watching it. My good girl Sharon, all of us was watching it on Easter. This second episode of the season. The show is just so good. It's becoming like it's got a real world vibe to it now, I feel like. But the drama is realistic. It's building. There's this in-house internal stuff. Dudes got girlfriends being flirty. And now that we're in season 2, these characters are established. If you have not seen season 1, you can watch it on Peacock. Summer House, Martha's Vineyard, okay? Watch it. Watch season 1 on Peacock. It's really easy to jump into and digest. My good friend who is on it, Preston Mitchum, who you all should know was in the book, The Case of Council Culture. I interviewed him for the book. He's a great attorney, but he's also this incredible Black queer person, and he's in DC, and he has this he's on this show. Watch it. It's so good. I just can't get enough of it. But one show that I'm not feeling that everyone's talking about, it's on Max, is the Jared Carmichael show. I'm just not here for Jared Carmichael, y'all. I know he's a Black gay man. He's a comedian, but I just don't like him. I'm not vibing with him. He did this show called Nathaniel, and I believe his real name is Nathaniel. And it was a comedy show, and, he came out, and it was a big deal. And, I always want to support people when they come out and live their truth and all that. But then I've been following him since, and I can't relate. I can't relate to him. I find his humor to be very self-deprecating. I just find him to be dredged with a little bit of anti-Blackness. I'm sorry. I just feel like he's that dude who might be awkward, but then his awkwardness is conflated in him trying to project that he's the odd Black. He's not like those Black people. And, he dates white guys and he wants to act like he's the oddball in. I'm just not. Listen, I might be talking a little bit too much on this podcast to the straights, but there is always in every community, and I mean, whether it's cishet or whatever, where you get these people that's in the community, and yes, they've been marginalized. Yes, they experience it, but what they've learned from those experiences is the wrong lessons. Like, you can learn wrong lessons. Like, they're not valuable lessons. It's the oxymoron, right? Where I tell people have learned the wrong lesson, right? Like, a person will say, Okay, you got accused of rape. What do? Uh, don't go to clubs and be around cameras. No, learn not to mess with people without consent. Right? Like that's what I mean. I learned the wrong lesson. The lesson isn't be around cameras, or even when people teach kids about young ladies, like, oh, you know, a lot of women are being abused. So what I'm going to tell my daughters is don't wear short skirts. That's the wrong lesson to teach. The lesson should be actually we need to teach men not to be creeps, right? That's the lesson. So when I say there's long lessons, so for example, Jared Carmichael, I mean, based on what we're seeing with this show, I have thoughts about the show. I'm going to go there. But like the experience for him is that he grew up in a very homophobic environment around a lot of churchgoers and things in the Black community. So yes, there's a lot of trauma there. There's a lot of there. That's very typical, right? But the lesson that we get from him is isolate yourself from Black people and be in a space where you're the only Black person around white people and date white men that don't carry this type of similar trauma. That's so fucking anti-Black because first of all, let's be very clear about something. White people that are queer, that are not oftentimes that grow up in affluence, experience homophobia. There is the Westboro Baptist Church. I keep telling you about this. I don't know a Black Westboro Baptist Church. Everybody keeps saying homophobia is rampant in the Black community. Child, it is rampant in every community, in different communities, and actually could be worse. If you go to, Catholic communities of white people, white Catholics or white evangelical Christians, I mean, child, they crazy too. They out here sending their kids to conversion therapy camps and shit. I'm not saying Black people have not gone through conversion therapy camps, but I don't know that many Black folks that are spending money to send their kids, their gay children, to the conversion therapy camps. I mean, yes, people get kicked out their houses. There's abuse. There's all of that. But I'm just saying, we got to stop this anti-Black narrative that tries to act like somehow Black people are homophobic and white people are not. Like, or that, there's a different level for us. Stop it. As a Black queer person, stop it. I have to say that I, as a Black queer person who have grown up in the streets, well, not in the streets, but in urban areas where there were streets, right? That grew up in public schools, that didn't have those experiences. I will tell you, yes, there was homophobia. But when I tell you that I got into white spaces in Texas, right, when I was going and navigating white spaces, even in Pennsylvania, doing the work of Equality Pennsylvania, I experienced some of the nastiest forms of homophobia from white folks that lived up here in Pennsylvania and even white folks that live in Texas. Let me tell you something. Child, y'all better read. Y'all need to get out the world. The issue with Nathaniel or Jared Carmichael, whatever, is that even the Don Lemons who had those issues, you all were segregated a lot of times from white people when you were growing up. So you don't know, you didn't really grow up. But if you watch Brokeback Mountain, child, that will tell you how they felt about them. But I guess people, again, not learn the right lessons. You were in an area where the concentration was Black. So you saw homophobia, but I also saw sexism. I also saw a lot of other issues, right? But if you go into a predominantly white neighborhood, baby, there is homophobia there. There's drug use. There's sexism. There's those issues. But because we're segregated oftentimes in society, we think that one group got the grass is green for other groups. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. Okay. And also, let me be clear, education ain't the only thing either, right? Now, some people do, there is arguments about liberalism things, and there's some correlation there. But let me tell you something. When I went to an Ivy League school with Black, white students, okay, at a school where people had money, I experienced more homophobia at Penn than I did growing up in the high school I did being out. Okay? Because this out Black queer man that you see today got elected class president and was valedictorian. And they knew in my high school that I was queer. They knew I was gay. They knew before my family, actually, that people didn't tell my family. Like, it was, and trustingly they knew. But again, I didn't come out to my family. Like, they knew I was gay. I was out in my high school amongst my peers. And I was I had a graduating class of 1,000 students. I had a school as big with 5,000, mostly Black and Latino students. And I was still able to achieve those type of accomplishments and feel supported and loved and liked. And I was like one of the most popular people in my school. I was in the superlative as most likely to succeed. And I was gay in 2009, okay, 2008, 2010. But then fast forward, I'm at Penn, right? And it's this progressive school, and people are telling me, calling me a faggot. People are out here, talking about they don't want to be around me because they think I'm weird. There was weird shit. And these are people that are like criminally crammed, went to private schools, all this shit. So I want to be very clear that Jared Carmichael, fuck you. Okay, fuck you. Fuck men like you that are in our community that continue to that exploit our communities and our experiences and our blackness to push these false narratives to garner a false sense of sympathy and victimhood that you quite frankly don't need from those people. Just saying. So the show, they're talking about this episode where Tyler, the creator, he tells Tyler Creator he has a crush on him, and Tyler Creator kind of like swerves him in this weird way. They say it's a documentary that's like reality show, but it gets scripted vibes. I don't like it. I don't care. I don't care about him. I find him to be the Amy Schumer of black comedians. You know what it is? My sense of humor is I like comedians. My taste in comedians, I like comedians that have like this conviction about them that's like really smart and pointed and has like conviction and things. Like, so some of my favorite comedians, like I love Marlon Lawrence when I was growing up, Marlon Lawrence had like a conviction in his comedy delivery. Bernie Mac, I love Bernie Mac as a comedian. Like, mind you, these comedians are problematic in certain aspects, but just their comedic delivery and performance. And Cat Williams, like I find Cat Williams really funny. I enjoy that kind of like comedic delivery. That's a style thing, right? But I don't like the self-deprecating comedian. I think the only one who could play that well was like George Carlin. Like I enjoy George Carlin. Like he was very good on that a little bit. But this self-deprecating comedian thing is like so... I don't like it. I think it's corny. I think it's lazy. I think it's played out. Like everyone loves to be the awkward person. I'm gonna shit on myself all day on my own and make jokes about myself and things. Like even like Kevin Hart, like he has conviction. I don't find him funny though, but he does the self-deprecating. He always gonna talk about his height. Like, dude, get over yourself. We've heard this shtick already. But like, I think about like the Donald Glover types of guys. Like they're always monotone, very checked out. I'm just like over that. It's so played out. Ugh, who cares? Get over yourself. So that's my take about the shows. Now, let's get into music. This is the final segment before, I wrap up. I mean, before I start, let me just say my bestie Jamarcus Henderson dropped his single Home. I can't stop listening to it. Between listening to Cowboy Carter, I listened to my friend's single Home, and I hope you all did on streaming. Very, very great song. Very emotional, very rich. I thought initially it was going to be more upbeat and like a banger. This is a very reflective song. It's a very, like, listening to the song made me think about loved ones in my life in a different way. It's a very emotional, thoughtful song, okay? So this is not something you can bang. But there will be other songs on the upcoming EP, which is called Solace, which is Solace, which is coming out in late April of this, this month. Late April, y'all, stay tuned. It's coming. Jamarcus is coming, okay? And it's going to be a great moment for those who is sitting down waiting to see what's going to be the next move. I'm excited for my bestie. I'm excited for the music. I'm excited for all of the opportunities that's going to come. I mean, it's Jamarcus season. So for those who are looking forward to it, Solace is coming on April 26th. This is an incredible project. There is several major songs and records. So there is Home, which is a lead single. There's Algorithm. There's My Way. There's Get Free. And then there's the final track, Solace. So it's a cute little EP. It's 5. He wrote all the songs and he produced them. And he also has an engineer and a co-producer named Melvin Darrell, who is an incredible producer that helped him on his project. And it's just some great work. So I'm super excited for everybody to hear it. I'm super excited to stand for my friend. And I'm super excited for all of the hype because we got to support local artists. We got to support queer artists. We got to support people out here that's doing the damn thing. So I just want y'all to get ready for April 26th. It's on all streaming platforms, no excuse. And just show love on his Instagram, Mr. Marcus _ Henderson on Instagram. Follow him and check out his music. And let him know how you feel about his music because, I always relate a message to him that people I bump into, they'll be like, oh, I can't wait for the album. I can't wait for all this. But listen, if you can, drop him some DMs, listen to the song, and let him know what you think. So, love it. So let's talk about Cowboy Carter. Look. So let me start off by saying 10 tens across the floor, okay? It's a 10 for me. It's a 5 stars. It's the best album I've heard this year so far. And I think it's going to be the best album I'm going to hear of 2024. I just don't see anything in competition. She's one of one. She's the only one. Don't even try to compete with her. The thing about Beyonce is that she really is in a universe of her own. I mean, she really is. Like, she's just, I know some of y'all, another Beyonce. Look, it's not even about the songs, right? I mean, I could talk about which songs I like and yada, yada, yada. It's not even about that. Like, it's not even about which song is good. Even if there was some songs that were not like the best things ever, it's the ambition for me. We're missing ambition in music. I kept trying to figure out why is it that this album and just the Beyonce thing excites me. It's because of her risk taking and her ambition. Artists are not taking those types of risks as much anymore. They're not as ambitious anymore. They're not as hungry anymore. And they don't challenge themselves. For the old Beyonce fans that keep complaining and fucking whining that they don't get an R&B album, kiss those days goodbye. The reality is that the R&B and her musicology and her artistry seems throughout her fucking work. If you don't understand that about her and her cohesion, then you're not listening carefully. And it's okay. Grow the fuck up. Because here's the thing I'm going to tell you. A lot of these people, you keep talking about something, you want a Beyonce R&B album. How many R&B artists are you supporting, right? You know what? Beyonce has moved into different categories so that these people that you keep acting like she's stumping on can get some shine. If you want that R&B album, go listen to Coco Jones. Go support, other R&B women that are doing the work. Give some support to, Summer Walker, who's out here doing her thing. Go listen to SZA. Like, go support other R&B artists. Stop trying to force Beyonce to be in a lane that she's already paved and already done years and decades ago. Like, it's time. This is a woman who wants to evolve. This is a woman who has no limits. This is a woman who has no fucking ceiling. And she wants to do whatever she wants, however she wants, because she's earned it. And she loves it. And she's invested in it. And she is a true, outside of Prince, I cannot think of another Black music artist outside of Prince that is so invested in the actual history and archaeology of Black music and creates her albums to pay homage to Black artistry in this era. I don't know another person that's living, that's Black, that is doing it like that. It's just, it's crazy. And because I am just naturally a nerd and a worm and get into music and pop culture and celebrity, I can't even get into all the references. And I can't even tell you all how much I already knew about some of this stuff. And the fact that she even knew about it and she incorporated, like Linda, like the references to Linda Martell, like all of that is just, it's phenomenal. It's incredible. It's just, I don't care what you think. I don't care of your opinions. You know what it is? The fact that you're even discussing an album at this magnitude in this year tells me of her fucking impact. The ambition alone, the investment alone, the way that it's a cultural conversation. It's less about her as a person, but more about the actual art. We don't get enough of that. I don't hear enough people talk about the art, that she's got people coming out of the woodwork that have an opinion, whether they feel it or not. That is what these albums should be. That is what an album of the year does. It creates a level of massive discussion and discourse that lives. And quite frankly, I don't give a fuck about these music reviews. I don't give a fuck about any of the hot takes, good or bad. I don't. Anybody, and I'm going to throw some shade, anybody who has written on this album in the past 40 album out, the past 72 hours or whatnot, that wrote about this album that was not from a reporting stand piece, I don't care what your take is. It's lackluster. It's not there. A real person that is really into music, that's not chasing the check because we have to get our money, you're gonna need like about 3 months to really, and you gotta listen to really unpack this album. I have not unpacked. Every time I listen to a song, I find out something new. I realize something that she did. It's going to take a whole year. Hell, I'm finally, and I'm barely coming to terms with Renaissance. Like it's been 2 years, y'all, and I haven't gotten over Renaissance. And so Cowboy Carter is going to take me another full year to digest and to unpack. And the fact that this album is so goddamn long in a beautiful way, she's got like 27 something tracks. The fact that she has so many damn tracks, I mean, even the intros and shit needs to be unpacked. I mean, you got Willie Nelson on there. You got On the Road Again. You got Legends. You got Dolly Parton. It's so much. Each song deserves a week to just listen to in rotation to understand. It's just rich. And honestly, I can't talk about the album. I really can't really get into all of the nuances because it's so fucking rich. I can't. I've just been listening to it consistently, and I'm just enjoying what I'm listening to, and I'm just enjoying it, y'all. That's what music is. A really good album. Like, some albums you can listen to a couple of times and give a review and give an opinion because it ain't really that much being said about the album. No shade. But albums like this, you just can't give a review. I mean, you can just give how you feel. And I feel like this is great. But I can't tell you what all the things that make it great. I can't unpack every single detail. The lyrics change, the meanings change, the songs change to me. I didn't listen to certain songs 1,000 times and realize, oh shit, that's what she meant. Or I think that's what she meant. I don't know. But what I do know is how it's making me feel, how it's making me think, how it's making me reimagine the genres, the bluegrass, the homage to Tina. I mean, what can I say? I don't have her favorite track. I don't know. It reminds me of when I listen to Renaissance. Yeah, I keep changing which is my favorite track. When I first listened to the album, Heated was kind of like, okay, it's cute. Now Heated is one of my favorite songs. When I first listened to the album, Break My Soul was my favorite song. But now I'm just like, oh, Break My Soul is like, it's good, but there's so many other songs we should be talking about. I can't tell you what to do. I can't. All I can tell you is you gotta listen to this, enjoy it, interpret it, sit back, relax, and let the music take you on a journey, because that's really what this album is about and what it does. I mean, what I will praise about this album is that she has opened the door for so many Black country artists. And every time y'all think y'all know what she's going to do, every time y'all try to throw y'all petty fucking shots, Beyoncé is somewhere saying, ha, that's funny, right? Like everybody was like, oh, she need to put these country artists. I mean, she didn't put all these major country artists, Black country artists you ain't never heard of. Some of y'all, right? That was, being shady. And then the girls that were not on her album, she done gave them their roses, okay? K. Michelle got goddamn flowers. Like, what more can she do, right? What more can she do when it comes to her music? I ain't gonna talk about her stances on political issues. We're just gonna talk about the music today, y'all. But what more can she do when it comes to the way that she respects the music, the way that she handles her artistry? Like, she takes this seriously. It's obvious. She's passionate about it. And God damn it, I don't give a fuck about a Grammy. She deserves album of the decade, most of these albums. Hell, all of the albums that then came, man, I don't, listen, to try to demand album of the year is to limit the full impact of this goddamn album. I think, listen, Kendrick Lamar got a Pulitzer for Damn. I think next year she deserves a Pulitzer Prize in music for what she's done with Cowboy Carter. Mark my words that the conversation about a Pulitzer prize in music for Beyonce, for Cowboy Carter next year, should be actually in consideration. The level of historical considerations, the references, the musography. I mean, I heard that all of her guitars were like old guitars she used, like she wanted a certain rustic sound. I mean, this woman is insane about her music. And we do not have the same 24 hours Beyonce has, y'all. Because remember, she has a personal chef, she has a jet, she has all the things that allows her to have this space and babysitters and nannies. So don't feel pressure to try to be her. She's one of one, okay? There are artists of a generation that just do it a certain way, and guess what? Rather than try to mimic them and be like them, just take pieces of them. Okay? Don't even try to copy, because there's just no way you can copy. Just appreciate. Just tell yourself, you know what? The next album I do, I'm not going to try to be super pretentious and be an idiot, because some people get annoyed. They want to be art. Just love what you do. Give a fuck about it. Give your best to it. And that's just it. I think the lesson that I can say about her whole interest in this album and what she's done with it, and what she's done with her music in the past several years, is that there is just a level of true love for the craft. And I feel like there's artists out here that's not making music to make music. They're just making music to make money. And Beyonce is so rich that she's just making music because she loves it. She don't give a fuck if it sells, and it's going to sell. Cowboy Carter has already broke the record already as being the most streamed single day album this year so far. It surpassed Ariana Grande, which was a couple of weeks ago. I mean, we're going to see what's going to happen in April. Doja Cat got an album coming out. I mean, we're just getting swamped with music. Taylor Swift's album is coming out later this month. I mean, it's just about to be a lot of artists. I mean, I've heard Dua Lipa got an album coming out very soon. It's going to be wild, y'all. The women in music are back. Okay? And I'm looking at Rihanna like, baby, maybe you should come in the summer, honey. Because apparently, Meg Thee Stallion might drop an album this summer. You know, I think that's when it's coming. Nicki must have been smart to drop her Pink Friday too in December, child. Because if she would have put it in this year, I don't know what it would have done. But there's just a lot right now. There's just a lot. And I just appreciate all these country artists, these black country artists that she's put on her songs and have given them a platform. These people went from having a couple of 100,000 to now having multi-million followers because she's exposed them and given them a platform. This is not her, basically reclaiming this music. She's helping to amplify the music. I think people was giving the wrong thing. They're like, oh, she's bringing country back. No, she's helping to revitalize it for a new generation. I haven't seen this many black people in cowboy hats in a long ass time. The fact that we as black people are embracing this music and going back and loving it, and not just loving her, but loving other black country artists and seeing them get on charts, baby. This is a big moment. And this is the thing, like Beyonce's power. That's why sometimes I will say I struggle with her when it comes to her using her political voice at times. But one thing about Beyonce is that's the power, right? The ability of her to use her platform to amplify all of these black country artists, to give them a stage that none of their white country peers could give them, right? That Taylor Swift didn't give them, that Martina and Faith Hill and all these other country artists did not give them. She gave them that. You got Mickey, who's over there, Mick Gundin or whatever her name is, people are just, these country black artists are just getting so much love. And she's able to pull people like Dolly Parton and Willie Nelson to come out and support her. So there's something to be said about this impact and even her using her star power to raise the profile. It is a big damn deal. This is the album of the year. I don't know who else can top it. I just don't see it for anybody else. I just think this is incredible. And I think this album is great. And I'm just here for it. I mean, so songs that I've been playing a lot, standouts. Ya is just a bona fide embodiment of this album. I also like, Two Most Wanted with her collaboration with Miley Cyrus, which who would have saw that coming, right? But the Miley Cyrus collaboration is definitely one for the books. I predict that she might actually chart number one. She might debut at number one. I think that'll be the first time Beyonce has ever in her career debut at number one on the charts. And I think if there's ever a single or song where she can just debut at number one, I think it's the Miley Cyrus track. I can see her just going straight to number one with that without no gaps. That is definitely a standout track on the album. I can see that. I can see a lot of things. I can see her breaking some record for Billboard entries. I can see all of these, 27 plus tracks debuting on Billboard 200. And I think that's going to move her up in her rankings. I mean, there's just a lot of history that's about to be made. I'm excited to see how the charts are going to play out. I'm excited. And I also want to say that Texas Hold'em sounds even more exciting and fascinating on the album with the intro. And even 16 carriages sounds even more like when you listen to these songs on the album. And also, let me just say this before wrapping up on her. We gotta stop trying to predict Beyonce. And I need people to stop following Twitter, random Twitter sites, and trying to send me. Can y'all stop it? Somebody, some random ass blogish ass Twitter account was like, who no one knows, said, "Oh, rumor has it Beyonce is gonna drop Cowboy Carter tour tickets on Friday, this upcoming Friday." Y'all, where did y'all get that news from? It's not real. And even the mistake that I even slipped up on is that y'all know that track list a couple of weeks ago that had these songs, H-Town, Hustle, all these songs, and that wasn't even a track list, y'all. Like, that wasn't even real. It's so much fake news out here in the world, y'all. There's so much misinformation. There's just so much fake news and shit. Please, at the end of the day, if it's not on Beyonce's website or Beyonce's Instagram, it's not real. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear. I don't even news outlets are like mispublishing information on Beyonce. I don't personally think Beyonce is going to do a tour this year. I think if you've been following Beyonce correctly, Beyonce always has done a tour the following year. We saw that with Lemonade. We saw that with Renaissance. Beyonce is like a 2-year era girl. Like, she's going to do a 2-year era stretch. First year is going to be the album and pushing the album. Second year is going to be the massive, world tour, right? That's how Beyonce, I feel like, has been doing it in recent years. So I think that's what Beyonce is going to do. Now, here's my other theory about this. I think that, again, I'm going to be wrong, but I'm going to just throw my shot. Here I am making predictions. I predict that, based on the pattern, is that this third act is going to be Beyonce's last album for a long, long time. I think that's the final album or the last album. I don't want to say it's her final album, but we're not going to hear from Beyonce after that third act album for a while. I think she is doing these 3 acts because I think it's a way for her to finally find her exit strategy. I'm not saying that Beyonce's not going to do music again. I just think that Beyonce isn't going to do... She's been in the game. Let me explain. So, based on the calendar we're at, it's every 2 years that Beyonce is dropping this music, right? So 2022 was when Renaissance came out. 2024 is Cowboy Carter. And in 2026, I predict will be that. Now, why I say 2026 is it's interesting is that in 1996, technically, was roughly around the time Beyonce began to formulate Destiny's Child, and that's been they formed. Now, I believe it was 97. I can't remember, but the group got their deal probably around 96. So technically, that will represent 30 years of her in the industry. And I also think that will be the year when she can officially qualify for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe as a Destiny's Child will qualify for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But her as a solo artist, I think she has to wait till 2028 or maybe 2027. Who knows? But, because she dropped Work It Out in 2027. So that was when she officially was solo, right? But I don't know. It's kind of tricky. But I do also think, too, you got to remember, B-Day will be celebrating at that point in time. B-Day will be celebrating its 20th anniversary. That was her second solo album. Yeah, y'all, we getting a little old. And Beyonce in 2026 will be 45 years old. I'm just saying. She'll be about 45. She'll be 45 years old. I mean, if there was ever a time to slow the career down, it just seems like all the time to me that it'll be her 9th studio album. Let me clarify, her 9th solo studio album. I feel like everything just spells conclusion. I'm not saying that, now let me be clear when I say this. I don't think that her career will be over. I just think she will get in a part of her career where she's probably going to go more entrepreneurial, more than she already is. I think that the way that, and I think Beyonce is one of those artists where she's always going to want to be on her A game. And so she's not going to be someone that I feel like I don't know. Who knows if if Cowboy Carter will happen. I'm just predicting. I feel like she will feel like she doesn't want to perform and dance and do all of these performances as aggressive. Because the way that she tours and the stories about her body and the impact, it's only going to be a matter of time before Beyonce. We're not going to be getting Beyonce dancing and moving like this forever. And we shouldn't want that. We have been selfish. Beyonce has given us so much of herself that honestly, I kind of want her to take a break after this. I want her to just kind of chill and do her. I can see her doing a couple of residencies. I can see her doing, these cool laid back albums. I can see her just doing just some whatever she wants to do. I can see her relaxing a little bit, but I don't see her want to be, because she's also a mother, and I think she does really do like to be with her children. And I don't think she wants to keep bringing her children on the road with her either. I just feel like the grand finale will be. Now, if you ask me what I think the third act album would be, I don't know. I maybe rock. I feel like it's gonna be rock. I feel like it's gonna be something in the rock is. I feel like that makes sense. I feel like Beyonce. I feel like if you look at Lemonade gave us all these hints. When I think about it, like Lemonade gave us the country. It gave us a taste of country music with Daddy Issues, but it gave us a taste of rock when she did that song. Do you trust me? I just don't hurt yourself. I just think, and she did with Jack White. I loved her in that. I loved that rock energy. I loved that energy she did. And that was actually one of my favorite songs in Lemonade. Like that was a Lemonade. That was a favorite for me on Lemonade. Don't hurt yourself. The energy, the rage. And so she got nominated in a rock category at the Grammys for that. She didn't get a country Grammy nomination for Daddy Issues with Dixie Chicks, which I thought was going to be, but it didn't happen. But I definitely think rock might be the next one. But who knows? You really can't predict Beyonce. Beyonce's not on our time. We're on her time when it comes to this music. So, look, we'll see. And so wrapping up, this week is going to be fun. It's the first week of April. I'm about to hit up some new restaurants and get excited. But I'm also going to be in Chicago this upcoming weekend. So as you all know, I'm on the board of SBJ, the SBJ Foundation, which is a Society of Professional Journalists Foundation, one of the oldest journalism organizations in America. And I'm on the foundation's board. And so I'm a proud board member. I'm super excited because this is like the first like national board I've ever been on. And so we meet in person like twice a year. And so I'm super excited to be in Chicago. It's my birthplace. I'm looking forward to just eating out, having some good times, getting some really good Chicago food, getting me a good Chicago hot dog. I enjoyed going to Chicago like last year for my book tour. I went to Harold's Fried Chicken. I need to get to Harold's again. I'm going to try to see my uncle if I can. Definitely going to be really soaking up Chicago. I got to get me another deep dish pizza. I went to Pequod's last time. I got to find a new place to just try different ones. But I'm going to really enjoy myself in Chicago. I'm really looking forward to the food. I'm really looking forward to meeting these incredible journalists across the country. I'm really looking forward to supporting the incredible work of SBJ and just being a good board leader. So there's so much going on. So little time. But as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.